Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Oceanic Pro League. We're up to day 2 of week 4. But let's first up take a look back at our first day here of week 4 and have a look at exactly what went down. Of course, there was a lot of action, and it started off with a huge one between the Chiefs and Team Immunity, and then the Chiefs took on Direwolves, the massive clash, and the Chiefs victorious in both of those matchups.
Yeah, the unbeaten Chiefs 8-0. Now, a lot of teams in touch and distance of them, though. Immunity, they took the big win over Sudden Fear, and Direwolves, they kept that gap close against the Chiefs, beating Sudden Fear.
Yeah, looking fantastic so far, but the Chiefs, the dream coming through, undefeated thus far. And we have a new day today. No Chiefs are going to be on the table, but Legacy are there looking to try and stamp their name on this one. And we'll have a look at the schedule going through. Of course, it's going to be Rich Gang taking on Legacy first up. Legacy then going to attempt to take down Avant-Garde in another finals rematch from PAX last year. Of course, these two teams already faced off.
And the first two teams promoted through the OCS into the OPL, Rich Gang and Fornot face off in your third game, and finally Fornot take on Avant to round out the day.
Yeah, and it's going to be exciting, this one, of course, and Legacy really looking to bounce back in the next series. Of course, if you guys have any thoughts on the matches today, make sure that you're on Twitter using that hashtag #IamOPL and give us all of your thoughts. I mean, I'm not going to talk about being underwater this time, but I'm excited for that. If you guys happen to be in any sort of aquatic environment, that would be definitely great.
How have you been doing on that one? Have you seen the aquatic
nothing.
tweet? It's not come
no
through.
one even cares. No.
We're still hoping, though.
Yeah, I'm hoping and wishing and dreaming, ladies and gentlemen.
And I believe with today's matches, we'll be officially halfway through the OPL for every team. We'll have every front half matchup. Everyone will have met each other once. So if you want to catch up on the standings, if you want to look at the VODs, go to oce.lolesports.com. You can find all the information there about the OPL.
Yeah, and so head over there, and also you can watch some VODs as well. You can check out everything that's happened thus far. It looks fantastic. I'm, of course, Max Atlas Anderson. I am joined by the lovely Christopher Papa Smithy Smith. And let's go into our first match here between Legacy and Rich Gang. And Legacy really looking to try and stamp their mark on this tournament. Lost a couple of games now to Direwolves and the Chiefs and are really looking to assert their dominance.
So Legacy come in 4-2, like you say. They've beaten everyone below them, but those two top teams, first and second place, those are the teams they've dropped points to. They're 2 games behind Direwolves, but 2 wins today against lower-ranked opposition. That'll bring them even to the Direwolves. So their future's in their own hands. They're the ones that can kind of make it there, but they need to beat those lower-placed teams to confirm their status as one of the top teams after what was a wonderful breakthrough 2014 for them.
Yeah, of course, our wildcard team from last year should theoretically come through as sort of one of the favorites to take out the OPL, but it has been Direwolves and the Chiefs on a massive tear just far. Just far enough, ladies and gentlemen, as the Chiefs definitely undefeated, looking fantastic, and the Direwolves have had some brilliant performances. But Legacy have shown some fantastic games to come through here, but it has to be on the back of Ejim and Choo-Choo's being able to make plays. Of course, Choo-Choo's not really finding all that much success on the likes of the Lulu.
Absolutely. When he plays the Wave Clear champions, when Legacy as a whole play reactive, and we've even seen Ejim on Janna, which is almost a contradiction of terms, you'd have to say, so known for those engaged supports. But when they go reactive, specifically it seems against the top opposition, they'll opt into late game comps. So remember the first game of the season, Chiefs versus Legacy, they opted into the late game comp and just could never get going against the Chiefs. That's where Legacy kind of fall apart. That's where they don't really utilize their really strong engaged champions, their assassin play from Choo-Choo's, the engaged support from Ejim. That's what I want to see them focus on today. They're against lower-ranked opposition. They should be playing with their tails up. They need the 2 wins, and they can confirm them if they play proactively and really strong.
Yeah, and of course, Rich Gang having a bit of a dull week last week, not actually managing to pick up a win at all. They're at 2-4, sort of the opposite standing as far as Legacy are concerned, and we'll see whether they can bounce back here as well. We do have bans coming through thick and fast. LeBlanc, Zed, and Callista taken off the table for Rich Gang, and Cassidy and Lysandra. Legacy sort of having to now ban away the must-ban champions because, of course, that is a massively focused ban list here for Rich Gang.
You're seeing 2 focus bans to the mid lane, already having to ban out Lysandra and Cassidy. That's a lot of pick champions, a lot of assassins already banned out in the pool. Sion, a top lane ban. We've actually seen so much Sion banning in the OPL. Some great play from him, specifically from Swiper, who's really been the most impressive Sion player. But of all the top lane tanks, Sion's the one that's getting the respect.
Yeah, and of course, Cardred, a massive tank on that champion as well in previous matchups past. Fiddlesticks is the hover here first up for Rich Gang, but that's probably not going to be the pick. And we'll see what Rich Homie decides to take away. Of course, a little bit of an interesting player, likes picking up the likes of Malphite to really allow these huge team fights to come through. But we'll see what the decision is going to be. Of course, I believe we're still on 5.3, so no 5.4 to come down just yet. So Jarvan, that man that has just been locked in for Rich Gang, still going to have armor on his stand. It's still pretty good.
Worth noting that with the revolving door that we kind of seen with the Rich Gang's roster, of course, Squiggle was playing last time out. The Rich Homie's back in the lineup. We see a bit of a role swap in bottom. Destiny's moving to AD carry from support, and Fence Boy's come in as the sub-support player.
Yeah, and Fence Boy, I mean, been seen around the traps just a little bit, but not really had a stake of a name in the Oceanic scene just yet, and we'll see whether he can really demand some dominance here. But Destiny moving to the AD carry role is very interesting because I've seen him in that support role for so long so far here.
Yeah, I've been looking at his previous champions played in solo queue. He's played a bit of the AD carry. It's kind of been a little bit of everything. Caitlyn, Graves, Jinx, all in there. So he definitely can play all of the meta picks, but he's very much untested in terms of the highest level of competition plays. So maybe this is a chance for Tallywack, of course, a new AD carry in his own right this season, to stake his claim and really open up a big advantage in the bottom lane.
Yeah, that being said, there was a little bit of a Fiora hover here, but it is going to be Choo-Choo's on the Ahri, and already Legacy have identified what they need, and they need to have Choo-Choo's on a champion that can outplay Ahri. That'll do it.
And worth noting that, of course, Chenny Boy's best champion in the OPL so far this season has been the Ahri. Even on patch 5.3 with some Ahri nerfs, Chenny Boy on those pick champions, specifically the Ahri, has been so impressive in the wins. But of course, it's Orianna we've seen a couple of times when he's on the wave clear champions. He's struggled a bit. So I like them taking away, even though they're very early picking what will clearly be a mid lane champion, just denying it from Rich Gang, I think is so important. Of course, Ahri's skill matchup, they're basically synonyms at this point.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, it could be an AD Ahri or a top lane Ahri.
Okay.
Who knows? Who knows what could happen here? But yeah, most likely Choo-Choo's going to be picking that one up. Carbon is going to be very comfortable on that Rek'Sai. Has played it a couple of times so far with mixed results. As now Huey and Chenny Boy hovering some champions here as well. And it's going to be the double support lock-in here. The answer from Chenny Boy to Ahri is going to be the Lulu. So just doesn't want to die in this lane.
Again, coming back, could be a top Lulu, I guess. It's still potential for that. Could be a support Lulu. And look at that lock-in. We thought maybe this was LCK, LPL, NALCS only, but no. It's probably going to be a support Veigar.
Yeah, and this isn't 5.4, ladies and gentlemen. That event horizon is still ultimate worthy as far as an E skill, and I'm looking forward to E-Gym now with Veigar in his hands. And of course, Tallywacker on Sivir is going to be able to speed that Veigar up to be able to get these event horizons exactly where he wants them.
And the thing about the event horizon, you throw it down and suddenly pick CC, light the charm. It's so damn easy to hit those with the 2.5 seconds at max range AoE CC coming out from Veigar. Suddenly this Ahri pickup, which was looking good in lane, a safe blind pick, could be really deadly.
Oh yeah, it's going to be very, very scary. Couple that with the fact that Carbon is on this Rek'Sai as well. She can get around the map super fast, can unburrow on targets, lock them down so that event horizon can come down oh so easily. And you have a terrifying pick comp to come through from Legacy. But the answer, of course, from Destiny is going to be that Caitlyn. He wants to stay as far away from E-Gym as he can.
Fantastic laning matchup, of course, for Caitlyn against the Sivir. We're talking 150 plus range difference between the two AD carries. So if you all work effectively, you get those autos in, you get the last hits, you get the harass. Very difficult for Sivir to get through that lane. I mean, for Veigar as well, they're going to have to almost play super aggressive if we do see a 2v2 just to go, because the standard laning phase, even though it's a Janna lane, Janna Caitlyn, we're talking auto attack harass every time.
Yeah, and I mean, Rich Homie now going to lock in that Rumble here as well for that Jarvan Rumble combination. Always been strong. Actually only picked up this Rumble once, and it was in the OCS, but they picked up a victory on it. So looking to see whether he can repeat that performance after quite a few weeks of play.
So we end up with the Gnar as the final counter pick for Kardred in the top lane. Of course, Gnar versus Rumble, a very standard matchup. We know Gnar's going to be able to push in the Rumble early. Rumble does struggle in the laning matchup, but as you mentioned, look down this Rich Gang lineup. So much AoE wombo coming through.
Yeah.
If Huey gets tanky, you're going to amplify that with the only other dive champion. Of course, Chenny Boy can throw the Wild Growth onto that dive champion. The AoE layering of the CC and damage coming through is going to be massive for Rich Gang. But you pointed out, for Legacy, this is a pick comp and a push comp. They can rotate with the Sivir, plump down that Event Horizon and say, yep, we're going to take your turret, and you can't walk through this to deal with it.
Yeah, ain't nothing they're going to be doing about that. And having that on the hunt combination with this Mega Gnar, being able to just pop that ultimate and get this Gnar exactly where he wants to be, you put that with the Event Horizon and Choo Choo's just going nuts with all that consistent damage, you've got a terrifying team fight as well as the pick potential coming through.
And that's kind of the crazy thing about Veigar as well, because it's kind of come really late. We haven't seen Veigar changes until this 5.4 patch where, you know, for the intents and purposes of Veigar support, Veigar's been nerfed. Because again, the instant cast Event Horizon is so flexible. People used to think, okay, it's for mid Veigar, throws it down, presses his buttons, you explode, especially if you're an AP champion, and that's it. But support Veigar, kind of the genius thing there is, okay, you can get picks with it, that's clear. You know, you can put down an Event Horizon, someone gets stunned, throw in a charm, someone's dead. But the interesting thing is you rotate with that Veigar, you put it down next to a turret. It has such a big radius. It's just a huge, you know, it's this huge area. That's why people call it an ultimate, is that there's such a large area of the lane that you can't walk in because of that Event Horizon coming through. So you just put that next to the turret. Nobody can walk near the turret, and you just take a free objective. It's on a shortish cooldown with cooldown reduction coming through naturally for supports anyway. So it's just so easy to both have a massive team fight cooldown in the Event Horizon, but also just great rotational ability, just throwing it down.
Yeah, and if you're talking about rotational ability, who best to couple it with than this Sivir at the same time? And, you know, Gnar has great split push utility here as well. Ahri, incredibly safe, so you can get some free auto attacks on some turrets and still stay okay. And Carbon, of course, split-pushing monster on Rek'Sai. You can just use that Void Rush to get exactly where you want to be.
But that's why I really like Destiny picking up the Caitlyn. For one, he's picking himself into an advantageous bottom lane matchup. So as someone who's just moving towards the AD carry role because of the roster swap-ups, that makes sense. You want to pick into a winning lane matchup, and you just want to keep the Sivir anchored in lane, under her turret, no chance to rotate. That's the big thing.
Yeah.
If they can extend the laning phase and stop the early rotations coming through, if there's no 3 turrets down for Legacy at, say, 15 minutes, if they stop the rotations, that'll be great for them. And of course, they've got the Gnar versus Rumble matchup. Rumble's going to have to be defensive. Theoretically, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be kind of a war of attrition. They just want to stop the early rotations coming through with that Veigar.
Yeah, and is it all going to come down to Fence Boy here on this Janna as well? Sort of the sole disengage to come through from this team?
I think in the late game especially, that'll be important. Of course, if Janna and Caitlyn get stunned up, that's going to be massive. They need the Janna hanging back even more than she does usually. Of course, as a Medjai's user, known so much to stand at the back of the fight, disengage, disengage, disengage. She'll have to watch her position. If she dies first in a fight, it's going to be difficult for Rich Gang to pick up a team fight victory.
Yeah, it's going to be very difficult. Of course, they've got Chenny Boy as well. That Glitterland's fantastic, slowing down approaching enemies coming through. But I'm not sure whether it's going to be enough just because on the hunt, so much consistent movement speed. And Ejim, you have to think, going to be going for those mobility boots, waddling around this map at top speed in that hilarious Viger state that he gets to. And my gosh, it's going to be very, very hard for Rich Gang. But of course, Rich Gang known for their mid-game power. So we'll see whether they can capitalize on that and use it here. And, you know, the fact that they have a sort of mixed up roster, it's fantastic that Rich Homie has come back because they now have some sort of solidified their top side of the map.
Absolutely. The top side of the map is just that much more reliable and expected coming through from the top. You know what Rich Homie is all about. Exactly. Yeah. It's a comfortable thing, and they need comfort there because, again, the bot lane's kind of in tatters. They're going for what will work with them. They're going for a bit of emergency procedures. And against Tallywacker and Ejim, who have looked quite good so far in the OPL.
Yeah, they most certainly have. And Tallywacker coming from that top lane looking brilliant. And I want to talk about Kardrid's Gnar, because Kardrid's who swapped out of that bottom side of the map. He's 2-0 on his Gnar so far. He's had a fantastic performance. And this has a lot to do with the fact that Mini Gnar plays a lot like a Vayne.
Absolutely. It's a ranged carry. You have AoE wave clear, which I guess that's not really Vayne-like. And of course, you have the big wave clear in the Mega Gnar form. But you're right. He's been very on top of that champion. They've engaged very well and played around the Gnar bar very well in fights. That's kind of the difference between the teams that really take advantage of all that Gnar offers and the teams that, you know, looked good on Gnar back when Gnar was at its strongest point of power on release. Right now, you have to be so careful with your timings, because when you hit the big Gnar ultimates, it can be massive. But if teams can really kite away when you're in the mini Gnar form and just never really let you get the big Mega Gnar against the wall, it's just that much more difficult.
Yeah, and that's going to be on Fenceboy to really make sure these things can happen, as he really wants to be using those monsoons effectively. And with no Black Shield, it's going to be difficult. But ladies and gentlemen, we're going to get onto the Rift for Rich Gang taking on Legacy, and we'll see whether Legacy can continue their form despite some losses here against Chiefs and Direwolves, really wanting to solidify an opportunity to get to that top 2 position.
So usually when we're talking about the Vega support, we start talking about lane swaps, because again, champions like Leona can really bully Vega around in lane, but this is Caitlyn Janna. So although Caitlyn is going to be playing and will be a big bully in this lane, Janna definitely doesn't have the big engage potential on the Vega, who's of course great going forward, great when he's getting the stuns with the Event Horizon, but weak against strong aggression when he has the Event Horizon on cooldown. With the Janna in lane, they could realistically happily go for a 2v2 here, Legacy, and they don't have to necessarily look for that lane swap.
And we do have Ejim heading around this top side. Tallywacker is committed to that bottom area when we do have Destiny and Fenceboy already down there. Carbon able to single-handedly remove a ward here in this brush. Actually going to go relatively aggressive here into the enemy blue buff. Takes a help picks for it and actually halves his health.
Yeah, didn't really have to go that aggressively to get the one ward down. The spot where he put it could have just put it over the wall. So maybe took a little bit of extra harass. Of course, that does mean that he's going to be entering the jungle at 155 or even slightly later. So he will actually pay the cost of his jungle timings, be just that slightly behind. But in the grand scheme of things, probably not going to mean too much.
Yeah, he's going to be okay. We do have Legacy actually picking up this lane swap here as the hard push to come through from Rich Gang here on the bottom side. A little bit of duo jungling to come down, and Destiny already removing so many of these creeps. And we've seen a lot of freezing going on when these lane swaps happen, not in the case of the Rich Gang.
No, they're pushing hard, as you mentioned. It looks like Legacy have been the ones who have opted into this lane swap. Of course, you can tell because they've taken their bot lane and put it top. Is Richomi going to eat a bit of harass when the Event Horizon comes down for the first time? Yeah, Rich Gang pushing hard, and we haven't seen the reaction come through from Kardred. He hasn't entered lane. Usually people would use their teleport early just to make sure they get all the experience from these creeps pushing against the turret, but for so far he's going to miss at least a wave.
Yeah, another Event Horizon to come down. Ejim continuing to put on the pressure. Eats some harpoons for it and has to be a little bit careful as he takes about 100 health.
You see the wave clear coming through in the mid, but yeah, of course going to hang back so far as Rich Homie is he's using the E at level 1, which unfortunately he can't overhit it, so it actually becomes quite difficult at level 1 to get the ranged last hit. So he's going to ping 2 now and have the option of just getting in there and getting as many creeps as he can.
Yep, speaking of level 2 though, Tallywacker now has that Boomerang Blade in order to get a fair bit more damage down. Nice use of the Ricochet in order to reset his auto attack animation. Pick up some extra creeps here as well as Chennyboy has taken a little bit of harass in this lane. Misses a Glitter Lance as well as Orbit Deception comes down. Huey being very aggressive early on. Charm doesn't land from Choo Choo's as he just fakes out towards this top side. Carbon waiting in the wings, but he's going to be okay. And Fenceboy going to... Actually, Chennyboy. A couple of boys on this team. Chennyboy going to take a bit of damage for it.
Yeah, see 4 members up. Actually spotted out Smart Ward coming through from Rich Homie. He's level 3. Kardred's only level 1, but they might be looking for the dive.
Yeah, they get the Unborrow knock up. There's the flash in response here, but no follow-up CC apart from that red buff. Rich Homie gets caught by the creeps. The flash from Kardred doesn't get it with the last auto, but he's going to die to the turret. First blood and an assist is actually going to net Legacy a little bit more gold.
But we can see that the answering objective comes through from Rich Gang. They've already started the dragon. They are going to be able to take it down. Rich Homie picks up a nice load, 300 gold from being able to pick up the gold for the answering kill. You get the advantage to Legacy in terms of gold, but it's a slim one and they lose an objective.
Yeah, Huey managing to easily smite away that dragon. Nothing Choo Choo's could do on his own as Event Horizon to come down here as well. And Rich Homie teleported back to this lane, and he's actually quite healthy. Of course, that Amptomb Ruby Crystal going towards that Haunting Guy is really going to keep him healthy as far as that health bar is concerned.
It's a massive buy. It gets him so close to the Haunting Guys. Very effective use of his gold, but no regen picked up. So he's already been chunked out. He only has the regen from the Doran Shield. Only that 6 health per 5. Not a massive amount of regen. So Legacy, they're going to keep pushing in aggressively and just try and deny as much away from Rich Homie.
Yep, Choo Choo's now with a little bit of an advantage as far as the CS is concerned in this mid lane, about 5, but is running low on that mana, has been harassing a lot with that Orb of Deception, which has gone up in mana cost just a little bit as Kardred just bounces on a few of these creeps. And of course, with these outer turrets for the first few minutes having a whole lot more defensive statistics, this fast push hasn't necessarily worked out for Rich Gang as far as getting that turret down early.
Absolutely not. You can see the experience is actually in the advantage of Rich Homie, though, because he's been in lane longer. Of course, we saw Kardred operating in that turret dive. Got a nice bit of experience picking up a kill. We'll get the answer in gold as we see the rotations come through from Ejim. It's going to be 1v1 in the top lane, Sivir versus Rumble. And now Nah, he's got a support.
Yeah, and sort of the makeshift lane, of course. Kardred and Ejim, they've got a lot of experience laning with one another. Just happy to move down into that move, but actually Huey up here, he finds Tallywhacker. Oh, he doesn't manage to spell shield the knock-up as the dive to come through. There's the heal down, as well as Rich Homie taking a lot of damage from the turret. And the dive not going to work out for Rich Gang. In
the bottom lane, Carbon's also coming in aggressively. It will back away. No kills coming through across the map. The heal, of course, saved Tallywhacker's life. They had to respect that, so nobody forced the turret.
Yeah, tunnel here as well that Destiny's going to take a cute 5 gold from. There's another Event Horizon, though. The decent shield to come down from Fence Boy to try and stop a bit of this damage. The Hyper, though, doing a bit of work as Kardred takes a fair bit of damage, just bounces his way out.
You can definitely see that Legacy are trying to operate in burst trades. Hit the Event Horizon, get a load of damage off, then disengage. Because Vega, once that Event Horizon's on cooldown, he's quite squishy. He wants to get out of those auto attacks from Caitlyn.
Yeah, and Ejim actually going for a coin start here. No cute business with the Relic Shield, wanting to stack up that AP just a little bit. Speaking of AP, though, Fence Boy, he's got 21 already.
Yeah, those shields are going to be just that much stronger. Of course, a little bit extra AD for Destiny to last hit with. Janna does scale very nicely with AP, even gives her move speed with her W scaling. So many scalings, why not pick it up if you don't need it for lane?
Yeah, that's true. Ejim going to get himself a little bit of AP here. Does land the Event Horizon onto Destiny, but these shields doing some work as far as keeping this AD carry alive.
The coin star actually does make him want to sit in lane more because, of course, most of his gold generation is tied to, those creeps dying around him. So maybe won't see as much roaming flavor, at least early, coming through from Ejim. But, of course, the sustain, the mana regen coming through from that item, just fine.
Yeah, and going to be getting towards that Talisman of Ascension all that much quicker here as well. Wants to be able to rocket himself into position for these Event Horizons. Huey waiting in the wings there, actually very still. Making sure that Tremor Sense isn't going to spot him out. Is going to spot him this time as the Scuttle Crab's what's in contention here. Huey looking for the possible smite on it, but just gets the knock-up. Chenny Boy first to respond from the mid lane as there's the equalizer from Rich Homie. Carbon's just going to die. Nice play from Rich Gang.
Huey was playing so intelligently there. Homie was about 3 creeps away from level 6, so he bought time. He didn't go for the early aggression, waited for the rotation. The equalizer coming through. Nothing Carbon can do. So much space control coming out of that ultimate, and then it's putting out the Flame Spitter. Smart kill coming through from Rich Gang.
Yeah, and Ejim actually coming up here towards the top side, has to use that Event Horizon defensively as Choo Choo's does manage to get the true damage there from the Orbit Deception. He's playing from the wrong side, but there's the Wild Growth and the Spirit Rush to come down. Choo Choo's a little bit less tanky than Chenny Boy, who is going to flash away as Kardred teleports in, but not going to find anything. Just a little bit of a optimistic teleport there as Huey not going to be caught out either.
So I really like that little trade between Choo Choo's and Chenny Boy, because if you watched, Choo Choo's held onto the charm for 8-9 seconds of that engage. He was looking for it for the final kill pressure coming through. Kept his flash, but the summoner used by Chenny Boy. Very nice from Choo Choo's to be so controlled with his important CC spell.
Yeah, they are going to trade mid-turret here for the bottom as Destiny is able just to auto-attack that one through. Of course, we have made this comment many a time that a Caitlyn is only happy when she's shooting a structure. So this Destiny pretty happy at this time.
See, I kind of think of Caitlyn's auto attack as a spell that you always want to use off cooldown. If you're ever missing an auto attack, whether it's on the enemy, a turret, a minion, you just want to push, harass, and take turrets. I don't know about the particular order. Of course, turrets always preferential. They get you faster to the Nexus, but you'll take anything.
Yeah, just like shooting stuff, basically. So pretty much keep right-clicking on things, and you're going to be doing A-OK. Tallywhacker and Ejim still hanging out in here in this top side as Rich Homie managing to pick himself up another kill, staying ahead in this farm, but that gap has closed. Ejim does have that Event Horizon. Rich Homie does get caught up just a little bit. Tallywhacker has the option to use his ultimate. There it is as well as the Exhauster come through. Rich Homie gonna flash out of the way. That is going to be an ultimate traded with a couple of summoner spells here as well, but this is going to mean the outer turret in the top lane.
We're talking about this rotational play coming through from Legacy. They wanted to take the turrets early. They've already got 2, especially the key mid lane turrets. They've opened up so much vision around the blue buff of Rich Gang. That's a structure now they can realistically try and have a monopoly over. But right now, they're just trying to get in position because the dragon's up.
Yeah, Choo-Choo's going to sweep out some wards here as well. Legacy not going to find the pink ward sitting in that brush as Fenceboy is going to try and defend his pink, but he's not going to be able to. Cardred charging up some rage here by hitting a few wards.
So we've got the guaranteed vision of the Scuttle Crab. I know how you like to keep tabs on the Scuttle Crab battles. Definitely first blood Scuttle Crab around Dragon to Legacy.
Yeah, Cardred just going to bounce his way out of this one. Blue buff is alive. Choo-Choo's probably wants to pick that one up. Needs that cooldown reduction and mana regen now with Ari having a few more expensive Qs to be thrown out.
Trying to clear vision. Of course, they will never have the full clear vision because of the aforementioned Scuttle Crab coming through to Legacy. They do have a level 7 Rumble who's quite overtuned, especially for a lane swap situation. You have to respect Rumble around the Dragon. Usually we're talking about first Dragon. It's second Dragon at 11 minutes, so it's still very, very early. No semblance of magic resist being picked up. This Equalizer can wreck a fight, and Rich Homie, his first Equalizer, taking down Carbon, stoning control, he clearly has an aptitude for playing this Rumble.
Yeah, and actually has been involved in every sort of kill that's going to be across this map, actually. The only death that Legacy managed to achieve was on Rich Homie, and he's picked up both of the kills here as well. So he seems to be the point of call as far as all the action is concerned. Chenny Boy going to continue to try. Oh, actually, there's the flash into the event horizon. The charm lands. Chenny Boy gets eliminated, and that Equalizer not going to do anything.
Yeah, the significant factor, they might have still had to respect the Equalizer if it was available, and they grouped up around Dragon. Rich Homie uses it to hope for disengage, hope for Chenny Boy to live. He doesn't even get to use Wild Growth, and this should be an unanswered Dragon to Legacy.
Yep, Cardred even able to charge up that Narbar here as well. Carbon does manage to smite that one away. It was a cute little peacemaker from the backside for Destiny, but doesn't achieve it, and Legacy, they even out the Dragons here after Rich Gang's intelligent early move.
Yeah, so the gold mostly reflecting the extra turret that's down for Legacy. We see advantages and disadvantages across the lane, specifically in the mid lane. Choo-Choo's has been playing aggressively. We've kind of seen that with some of the great trades he's getting in with Chenny Boy, and now the assassination on him moments before. He's about 17 CS ahead. But Destiny, the sub 80 carry, the support moving to 80 carry, doing very well for himself.
Yeah, it does actually have a lead in that gold here as well, even if it is by about 40 gold, which is basically nothing. Choo-Choo's going to use that Orb Deception, try and clear out this wave as well as Rich Gang coming through for their fabled full team roam very early on in the game.
Last of the outer turrets is up bottom lane for Legacy, so they want to get the push down there, but of course so far away from the mid lane. They have the mid lane turret advantage. It gives them an excellent lane ward that spots out all the rotations coming through from Rich Gang. They have the options here to Legacy with that mid turret being down.
Yeah, and we'll see whether Destiny is going to move around. Has managed to pick up that bottom turret, but he is heading towards that bottom lane again. And should they be using this Caitlyn in order to put pressure on other lanes and keep pushing out these minions?
I think, look, they're behind in turrets and in terms of map movement, just with that assassination coming through from Choo-Choo's, maybe there's not the confidence or the ward coverage potentially to push out some of these side lane turrets. I guess I can only kind of speculate as to why they're playing so defensively. Maybe they just want to double down on this last outer turret down bottom and kind of extend the laning phase to stop the advantage of the on the hunt coming through rotationally from Tallywacker on that Sivir. At the moment, though, happy to sit in the bottom lane and clear waves.
Yeah, it's a little bit like Rich Gang feel like they're on damage control at this stage, but of course, with only 2,000 gold being the difference, that is basically nothing here at 14 minutes, and they could be making some moves, but not opting to, and that might have a lot to do with the fact that their comp not quite as pick-orientated as usual here for Rich Gang.
So much heavy lifting around how their comp works is actually on Huey, and we talked about Huey's KDA and wins. He's been excellent in those wins, but a lot relies on precise engages. The event horizon's down, Huey does show up in bot lane, but just too much gap to close.
Yeah, and Destiny eats a boomerang, but he is going to be okay. Of course, that Eye of the Storm doing some work here from Fenceboy, being able to really keep him topped up as far as that shield is concerned. And when it comes to burst damage, a shield is the best option.
Absolutely. If you're topping up health with a shield, you give extra effective health and, of course, the attack damage stats coming through. So in laning phase, if John is against a non-sustained support like Ejim, the shield's great.
Yeah, Ejim, just look at that waddle. It's just hilarious. Walking around here, does get spotted by a ward. Howling Gale not going to find him here as well as Huey actually flags and drags his way into an event horizon. Ejim in so much trouble. There's the ult, and Destiny picks up the kill. The teleport to come down from Rich Homie. he actually follows it as well. That might mean an inner turret in the top lane.
Yeah, we saw the quick cancel from Kardrid. Rich Homie takes the teleport. With Rek'Sai so close, they're going to lose their blue buff for sure, and will lose a lot of health on that inner turret. Bit questionable for him to follow the turret, but maybe they just want to answer the inner turret with the mid turret.
Yeah, they're moving towards this mid lane. Of course, Destiny staying towards that bottom side as Carbon decides to keep on this push. And why wouldn't you as well? With so many members towards that mid lane, a lot is going to be on Choo-Choo's and whether or not he can clear out this wave as effectively as he can. Inner turret at half health already. That one is going to go down. Choo-Choo's lands a charm here onto Chenny Boy as well, who has to be careful. And there's Ejim on his way back. Wild Growth forced out here onto Rich Homie to keep him alive. Choo-Choo's did use his ultimate, and Ejim still playing aggressive. They take down the inner turret, and Legacy just asserting dominance on this map. And we were talking about Legacy needing to be proactive. That's what they're doing this game.
I mean, they've taken an inner turret. You have to say they lost the maximum, but we see Huey going in.
Yeah, there's the equalizer as well with that Cataclysm. Nowhere Kardrid could go. The Event Horizon's there. And Ejim is out as he tries to save his top laner unsuccessfully.
So the key factor with what we were looking at, they lost the inner turret. You thought, okay, they'll answer this with the mid turret. It's not exactly the most even trade gold-wise, but taking the mid turret gives you so much pressure. You can push the wards up. You can kind of understand it. The issue was Destiny wasn't grouped with the 4, so they didn't have the Caitlyn for turret damage. The turret stayed very safe. Choo-Choo was able to get a few choice charms in to chunk out members, so they definitely lost the maximum trying to trade for that mid turret. They needed Caitlyn group. They didn't have it, so they had to answer the push coming through in top lane, and now they've lost both their top lane turrets.
Yeah, and that wave just pushed all the way back again for Legacy as well as Kardrid came around and cleared that one out, and Destiny continues to take residence in that bottom side. Someone should let him know that he can leave that lane if he wants to, but hasn't really got that memo just yet, and you really need to be using a Caitlyn to take down the easy turrets on this map. They've got a top outer, they've got a mid outer. You really need to start really putting the pressure down, because if he just stays in this bottom lane, not really doing anything as far as objective control is concerned, it's just going to be Rich Gang falling further and further into a hole, you have to think.
Yeah, I follow the conventional wisdom, because of course a lot of people say, oh, but Caitlyn falls off in the mid game. I don't agree, just because Caitlyn's ability to take turrets is unparalleled. Being able to put down the traps to zone space, to have the great reliable escape in the 90 caliber net, and the 650 plus range, able to just auto attack down turrets. In the mid game, your job is to rotate around and take turrets. If you're just anchored under a turret, clearing waves and doing nothing offensively, yes, you'll fall off, but that's just your own strategic decisions, not necessarily the champion.
Yeah, exactly. We'll see whether Rich Gang are going to utilize that one, as Event Horizon going to stun up 3 members here of Rich Gang. They do manage to get this pink ward down, though, as Rich Gang do get enough damage onto that one. Of course, 5 members is probably enough in order to secure that. Chenny Boy not going to get hit by that Dark Matter as Legacy looking to start something up. Ejim does have the Event Horizon there again. Zones out so much control, but it's a decent equalizer. Carbon goes down so low after picking up a kill, but it's Choo-Choo's and Ejim following up with so much damage. Rich Homie manages to answer with Choo-Choo's, but he's getting slowed down, and the On The Hunt is enough. There's another one as Ejim lands the stuns. It is a lot of damage back, and Destiny doing some work as he gets a double kill, but he's the last man standing. Legacy, they win the trade, but not by as much as you'd expect.
Not by as much at all. Carbon decided to split push and push in a wave rather than regroup. Okay, he was at low health, but it would have been a 3v2 outnumbered situation. As a result, Destiny suddenly 3-0-1 and double buffs, now sitting on 1,500 gold. He might kickstart his build, but you look like just with Carbon ulting back in, using the Void Rush, you have to think they want this second dragon do Legacy.
Yeah, Rich Homie did have a very nice time with that equalizer as well. It was placed beautifully here. Him and Huey are able to do the work as Rich Gang, they've got a couple of members. EQ over the side, and that's an easy steal for Huey. Ace in the hole under Carbon. Kardrid's here as well, trying to build that Naba. That's a triple stun from the Event Horizon. Huey's going to go down as Chenny Boy just does not have the damage. Another On The Hunt to come through, and another knock-up from Carbon. It's a double kill.
Absolutely. Huey and Chenny Boy were left for dead for Destiny there. Even though he had the double buffs, decided to move away. Didn't like the engage that was put in front of him. Doing no damage in the backline, of course, gave Legacy free reign to go in. They lose the dragon, but they pick up 2 exit kills.
And you notice that dragon was going down a little bit faster than normal. Carbon is again going for the Trinity Force.
He loves the carry, but you can see the skirmishes Saber. He's all about those skirmishes. He wants to fight at every opportunity. He marks the target, they do less damage, and he just gets in their face and does the damage.
Yeah, this is why he was so surprised at how passive the European players were in that interview when he was over for Wildcard. of course, wants to be fighting all the time, and they were wanting to play strategic League of Legends. What's that about?
What's that about? You just want to fight at every opportunity. And you can see that with the builds across Legacy. Rich Gang, Chenny Boy in particular, he's just trying to answer the pressure coming through from Choo-Choos. And even though he has a very similar build, of course, slightly undertuned in terms of AP, we saw Choo-Choos as basically a frontline fighter in the early fight, doing a lot of damage to the backline, nobody to peel them away. Of course, when Huey's diving in, there's not a lot of peel. Even with Fence Boy on the team, they haven't been able to peel away that Ahri.
Yeah, and I mean, Cardred here as well, it's a very, very tank-focused Gnar build. No cheeky brutalizers to come through. No Phage there as well. Nothing like that, just going for full tank after his Doran's Blade. And that seems to be working out fantastically here because he's so tanky.
You have to love the fact that they swapped the aggression of their top lane straight into the AD carry position, and then their more defensive, positioning-orientated AD carry. He can build a Randuin's before he even had boots, was what Cardred did. He knows his role this game. He needed a Randuin's, and he had it very, very early.
I just want a big shield, guys, and I'll be A-OK. Of course, I don't know where Gnar keeps it, because pretty small champion when he's not in Mega Gnar form. EGM going to try and clear out this pink ward here as well, as Legacy try and strangle some vision. Now with so much control, that inner turret in the top lane falling down. Only a couple of inners remain, as it is 4 turrets to 1. Chenny Boy caught in the event horizon here just a little bit. Not going to get stunned, as the Prey Seeker's going to find him.
Yeah, was able to just use his fancy footwork, not get stunned, because of course no pressure of charm coming through. Choo-Choos wasn't grouped with the rest of the team. You can't play that fanciful. You can't just move him side to side when the charm really forces you to make a decision in terms of positioning.
Yeah, Scrying Orb going to find EGM here as well. Carbon's completed that Trinity Force. And we're normally talking about a top lane power spike when it comes to that item, but not this time. It's in the jungle.
I mean, 3-1 and 2, so he was snowballing to an extent you can understand a Trinity Force. And can you really blame someone for building a Trinity Force out of the jungle when he finished it at 20 minutes? That's a very good clip for anyone to pick it up, especially with already Boots 2 and another offensive item in the Warriors being completed. Carbon is so overtuned for damage. In terms of gold lead, he's 3,000 gold ahead almost of Huey. And that's all damage. He spent all his advantage in damage.
Yeah, and he's got a 70 creep advantage here as well. Has been split pushing, and this is what happens when you build damage on your Rek'Sai. You can use it as a legitimate split push source because you're not just a damage soak, you're a damage threat in these fights.
And the crazy thing is, you look down the CS values, it's not like he's been taking the CS from other people. It's Rich Homie again. He's been trying to group. It's been Rich Gang losing CS to turrets, just losing CS that hasn't been picked up. Whereas Legacy, you can tell from the creep numbers across the board, they've been picking up every creep that comes their way.
Yeah, Carbon actually 20 CS up on his top laner, but his top laner's only 7 down.
That's the thing. They're picking up so much more CS that's dying to turrets for a Rich Gang. And that just means the gold further snowballing without even more objectives to have to be talked about. 5,500 gold is the lead. It's big, as Cardred, he wants to steal away the blue buff.
Yeah, and Legacy now with a huge opportunity. Rabadon's death cap has been completed by Choo-Choos. He's got so much damage on his Ahri at this stage. Doesn't have boots too, just has a sweet red hat. Actually, purple hat. It's just red background. It confuses me there just a little bit. EGM going to come around looking for that Event Horizon. Choo-Choos eats a cupcake. That was delicious. Event Horizon going to find a couple of stuns here as well. The charm doesn't land, and EGM just gets eliminated. There's the equalizer to come through here as well. Legacy might want to re-engage as Huey gets Wild Growth. The beautiful bait, but it's not enough. As here comes Rek'Sai Carbon trying to come into this fight. He's already half health though, and Cardred doesn't have the Gnar bar ready. Doesn't even land that boomerang here as well. The double boomerang comp, always exciting to watch. But Tallywacker, he wasn't there for that fight.
Legacy were very fortunate that Rich Homie threw out the equalizer short. They were able to disengage from it, get away from it, and find a safe passage towards their side of the jungle. So they did not get burned down by the equalizer. In terms of items, Rich Homie's got definitely the early game clip very early, having those Sorcerer's Shoes, the Haunting guys, and just working towards the Zhonyas. So he's actually looking fine. That was a big equalizer, but again, just a little bit short, allowed them to be disengaged from it.
Yeah, of course. Did secure the kill onto EGM, but EGM doesn't really mind that much, of course. He's a little Viger, and once that Event Horizon's down, his job's basically done.
And EGM also bring out some skin differences with it, bring out the Baron Von Vega, not the superb villain Vega we've been seeing recently.
I like the Baron Von Vega.
It's just a bit more evil.
Yeah, it is definitely evil for obvious reasons, ladies and gentlemen. Rich Homie going to keep clearing out these minions. As EGM Going to get rid of a ward here as well. Takes him a little while, but in the meantime, Chenny Boy, he's dead.
Chenny Boy actually had gone for a bit of a walk and found 3 members of Legacy in his face, so he just kind of instantly died.
Yeah, I was excited about Ejim clearing a ward, but Chenny Boy died in the meantime. Dragon is going to respawn here as well. Tallywhacker waiting around patiently for that guy to come back into the pit. And him and Ejim going to be able to take this one down for the second here for Legacy. Of course, that's going to even it out at 2-2 as Carbon comes around here as well, just to try and secure this one. No steals to come down for Rich Gang, as they have no interest in this Dragon whatsoever.
And to be honest, Rich Gang can't really have a stake in their own Dragon. We're going to see a pink ward being cleared out in the bottom lane. They don't have many wards around their own side of the jungle. They're not even thinking about wards on the enemy side of the jungle. Basically, all neutrals are open for Legacy.
Yeah, and they're going to be able to take down this inner turret as well. They've got a lot of damage as Carbon's got that Sheen proc here as well. Huey gets caught by that Event Horizon, but it's only going to be on one, and that's going to mean Huey wants to come in. Ejim goes down solo. That's the equalizer just to kill the Viger, as now the on the hunt's there. Cardred with a beautiful evolve. There's the flash into the Nara as well. Gets the stun, and both supports are now dead, but so's Tallywhacker. Rich Gang managing to turn this one around. Destiny now free hitting from the back line, but a double kill for Choo Choo's as he finally turns up. That's going to solidify it here for Legacy.
Choo Choo's rotated very, very late, only picked up 2 exit kills. In terms of a 5v5, Legacy would have won at landside if they were grouped. That's why we saw the overcommit onto Vega. They wanted to get a pick before Choo Choo's could group, and in the end, a very even trade, despite how far ahead Legacy are in this game.
Yeah, Legacy's still able to get an inner turret, but let's see what happens.
So they definitely overcommit here for Ejim. Watch what he eats. He uses the Cataclysm, and they only get the equalizer damage on Ejim. You can see on the minimap, Ari's still rotating. She's very slow to rotate, so they want to get as many exit kills and get out here, the Rich Gang. But so fortunate, the Gnar comes out just the perfect time, and then Choo Choo's, he's loaded with damage. He picks up the 2 exit kills. Destiny himself, 4-0-2, doing very, very well. But we've commented on the fact that we haven't really seen the purchase out of this Caitlyn. We haven't seen the rotations come through. Still only 1 outer turret with that Caitlyn. She needs that extra damage item to be a team fight Caitlyn, because she hasn't really filled her role as the mid-game pushing Caitlyn.
Yeah, but of course does have 3 items now. He's actually ahead as far as the gold is concerned of Tallywhacker. So not doing too bad.
Doing just fine for damage, but again, hasn't picked up those structures.
Yeah, you got to be in the right spots, don't you, really?
The rotations haven't been there for Rich Gang. With this new lineup, they definitely haven't been as on point in the early game as we've kind of typified Rich Gang. Even in week 1, they were very on point with their rotations and their victory during that week. In this game, they've been kind of trying to look to answer whatever Legacy have thrown out to them, but Legacy have been fighting on multiple fronts. They're winning in CS, they're winning in turrets, they're even now in Dragons. It just feels like, I don't know when Rich Gang are going to put up their big stand, when they're really going to initiate a fight.
Yeah, when they've decided that they really want to fight here. Of course, the Zhonya's Hourglass has been completed on the side of Rich Homie, so he's going to be able to be that golden flamethrower, able to sit in the middle of this fight, and that might mean that Rich Gang might want to start the fights. Of course, when they do get that Equalizer Cataclysm combo, things are working out great for them. They're picking up kills in these trades.
But kind of extending the window before they get their first big wombo combo down, to the point that Carbon has Trinity Force, Warrior Enchant. He's close to a Banshee Veil now. Like, you're letting someone from the jungle go Trinity Force into tanky before you choose to fight. So he's going to be so overtuned for damage. There was a portion in time when he would have been burned down by the Equalizer, even just with the magic penetration items. But now he's actually relatively tanky, and we've already seen the damage he can do in the front line.
Yeah, Carbon's actually, he's out farming both solo lanes of Rich Gang on this Rek'Sai from the jungle. This is really weird.
It's the second time that he's kind of power farmed.
This is some Saint Vicious type stuff.
This is some Saint Vicious Season 1 stuff.
Yeah.
It's not Udyr, it's Rek'Sai. That champion wasn't around in Season 1, was Rek'Sai, but she can definitely farm all the things, and then she can say, no, don't worry, team, global. I got the global, I'll be there eventually.
Yeah, it's a bit like the Nocturne of old here, as well as the Dark Matter going to come down. As Rich Homie going to use that Zhonya, as he might have baited effectively here as the boomerang comes through from Tallywhacker, coming through to the backside as Rich Homie taking a lot of damage. Carbon already at half health as he comes in. The Event Horizon locks down Huey as well, who just flashes out. The Skirmisher Saber going to be used, but not going to find him, as Wild Growth going to keep him alive. A lot of flashing health bars, but Legacy are going to survive, but so are Rich Gang.
Amazingly, Rich Homie lives. He didn't even have Flash available. He held on to the Equalizer a long time after coming through from the stasis. Choo Choo's, he was the big one to track. He came into the fight late, could not get the assassination on Destiny, and no one dies.
And this is what you were talking about. Look at the zone potential to come through, able to take down that turret, and the flash into all of the abilities from Choo Choo's going to get rid of Chenny Boy.
There's knowing your ranges and going for a Flash double Q needed. He needed both sides of the Q to get the kill, but that's how good Choo-Choo's is. He judges it perfectly and takes down Chenny Boy.
Absolutely wonderful play. Carbon, he's going to be able to throw out a Prey Seeker here, but not wanting to risk taking down that pink ward. Lots of tunnels here in the river. My goodness, Ejim, that was close, buddy.
So we check in on the gold. The highest gold value on Legacy, you guessed it, it's Carbon, farming up all the things. He's actually a few hundred gold behind Destiny. So Destiny, in his debut at AD carry, doing very, very well. Okay, the rotations haven't been there. That's probably a team call. That's probably not his selfish play. But man, he's picking up the creeps wherever he can.
Oh yeah, he is on the clock here with these creeps. 30 minutes in, 300 CS, definitely doing well. And his lane opponent, second highest in the game, but 40 CS behind.
But given how this game's shaking out, he kind of has to go full damage. He kind of needs to be that hyper carry for his team, and the assassination potential from Choo-Choo's is significant. No magic resist, no QSS completed yet. Gonna have to be so on point with the disengage is Fence Boy. Or if Destiny falls, so much of his team's gold dies with him.
Yeah, it's so true. And I mean, Tallywacker, it's not really up to him to do all that much. He needs to pop the ultimate so that Legacy can get their members in. And then Choo-Choo's, he's got a lot of AoE damage and assassination potential himself. As here's the ultimate to come through. Actually, it's going to be the Talisman Huey. He gets locked up, immediately destroyed as Carbon gets that kill. Equalizer, just an afterthought in the backline. Not going to be doing too much as Spirit Rush is going to get Choo-Choo's to safety. Carbon, not as tanky as he'd like, as he's going to have to go back to base. Does have that Void Rush available. He can get in and re-engage this fight. A little bit like a teleport revive Karthus here in this Rek'Sai play.
There is very similar flavor now that you pointed out. It was very amusing to see a jungler bite the bullet, bite the ace in the hole coming through him. Caitlyn almost died to it because there's no armor, only really the selfish stats being picked up. Finally going to work towards a Randuin's or a Frozen Heart with the double cloth armor pickup. But right now, against Destiny, Carbon is certainly not a tank.
Yeah, although certainly doesn't have any fear here at all. More than happy just to play like a tank. I believe that's an Elixir of Iron here as well, because that Rek'Sai is huge. I mean, I'm sorry, babe. I'm not calling you fat or anything like that, but definitely a large Rek'Sai on the map here. As Cardred, he's been split pushing. He's already getting damage on this inhibitor turret. Nasu into the wall, but might be in trouble as Destiny's got that last Whisper. Just going to net after him here as well, as there's the Glitter Lance. Cardred taking a long time to die. Finally going to use that flash. There's the Cataclysm as well, as Ace in the hole going to lock down that kill, but it took a lot of time.
Some fancy footwork, some disengaging, but you can't run away from the sniper. The Ace in the hole comes through. Destiny continues to pad his stats. 502. Still the richest member on the Rift at over 13,000 gold, but Choo-Choo's is trying to catch people in transition.
Yeah, Fence Boy gets caught by the abilities here of the Legacy lineup as Rich Gang, they're just going to die here. That was beautiful. That Orb of Deception was like watching someone play the piano. It was lovely, just gliding over the enemy team.
And Carbon gives him, the slight clap. He claps a little bit because he doesn't care. He's split pushing. He's not interested in any of this team play. And he's going to just DPS down this turret.
Yep, PvE League of Legends coming through here as well from Carbon. He's going to get the inhibitor turret. There are 3 members down there as well, but the Baron is the call for Legacy as Cardred turns up. He's got the Banshee's Veil, which Baron is just going to dispose of here as well. He's happy to tank this one up as Void Rush comes through. Carbon, it doesn't even remember being on that bottom side of the map, and they're going to be able to secure the Baron.
He heard something about 300 gold, so of course he got there pronto to secure it as Carbon keeps padding the gold. He's trying to catch up. Oh, it's neck and neck. We're talking 50 gold between him and Destiny.
It's
not usually the race between the jungler and the enemy AD carry for most gold in the game, but that's what we've turned into in this match between Rich Gang and Legacy.
Yeah, and Carbon more than happy to take... Oh, no, he's not. He's going to donate that red buff over. So not going to be that selfish is Carbon. Still giving that one over to Tallywacker, who's had some decent scores in his own right. 2-2 and 9 now. Of course, that on the hunt. Fantastic for picking up assists.
So do you feel like the donation was the first or second thought in his mind when he started up that red buff?
Probably the second. I think you'd be pretty comfortable being able to make that assumption. Is Tallywacker going to help take down this Scuttle Crab here as well? Scuttle control on this bottom side river in Legacy's hands firmly this game.
All I'd like to see Legacy do is, A, clear out the pink wards, which they're going to be doing now, and get their own setup, because Choo-Choo's, in terms of items, he's so overtuned compared to Chenny.
Oh, yeah.
Already he's an assassin, so he uses the AP offensively, more efficiency. Of course, a lot of AP defensive scaling coming through from Chenny Boy, but we're talking an extra Void Staff, an extra needlessly large rod, and the more aggressive boots with the Sorcerer's Shoes. You cannot face check this Ari.
Yeah, and look at Cardred here as well. He's got a Warmog's armor and both of those sort of magic resist and armor items that he'd want. He is so huge on this Gnar. Now coming through, that's almost 4,000 health at level 15, and that is terrifying. Huey takes a couple of crits from Telewacker. He has to go back. The Event Horizon is going to land on Defense Boy here, but no follow-up. They just want the inhibitor.
At the same point, Carbon, he walked up to Rich Homie, did 70% of his health instantly. Rich Homie had to move away. They took a turret, and Carbon's not done.
Yeah, Carbon, of course, doesn't mind at all. Just worried at the fact that, you know, there's more than one person here because he thought that it was a one-on-one this game as he just tunnels towards this inhibitor. They're going to be able to take that one down in quick fashion. There's Legacy just having their way at this stage. There's the Cataclysm, the Equalizer to come through as well, but Huey dies instantly. It is going to be Ejim falling down, but that seems to be exactly what happens and part of Legacy's plan here in these trades.
We mentioned that Huey, he's the only frontline. He's the only member of Rich Gang who can initiate a fight, and you can kind of see how that's been going for him this game. 1-7-11. He's got 12 out of 13 kill participation, but being a soul tank and diving into the Choo-Choos and Tallywacker as strong as they are, it's just suicide.
Yeah, Legacy actually going to find Rich Gang here as they're checking about. No reason for them to be this side of the jungle at all. There's no Baron. They may have actually been caught out, but it's not going to happen. That being said, I mean, Rich Homie, if he had that Equalizer, it would be fantastic to fight in those choke points. But, of course, when it's not there, not something you want to do.
Absolutely not. He's got all the magic penetration. He's definitely got the cost-effective Rumble build coming through. He's actually still in head and CS with Cardred. And if you've played Rumble, you know how hard it is to keep the CS up on that champion. He's great at team fighting. He's great at picking up kills. Not so good at farming the minion.
Yeah, that's probably why you play him in the jungle, isn't that right?
Rumble in the jungle.
Oh,
Works.
yeah.
It's so much synergy. He's got the skin. It's a
know.
go button.
It's beautiful. Beautiful. I've actually seen your Rumble in the jungle, and it's quite effective. Huey actually going to get caught out here again. That is the E coming through from Ejim. Just doing so much work. Choo-Choos is going to finally kill Destiny somewhere on this map as Carbon. He's super tanky, super amounts of damage, and there's super creeps in the base now of Rich Gang. It's getting scary here for these guys.
It's getting super, absolutely, Atlas. Choo-Choo's finally managed to get the assassination on Destiny he was looking for. You could tell this whole game he was like, I need to kill this AD carry. He's the only one with gold. And finally Destiny, in his pro debut at AD carry, falls down.
Yeah, that's another Event Horizon. Chenny Boy's gonna die here as well. Had his ultimate available, no opportunity to use it. The flash charm onto the Nexus because Choo-Choos thinks he can kill it before these turrets go down with a spell, which is actually impossible. The Gnar into the wall, is it gonna come? As Cardred, so much damage! This is ridiculous! Carbon is just tearing through the members of Rich Gang. And Tallywacker, he almost goes down, but this Legacy squad really looking revitalized after last week.
And Carbon's Rek'Sai, the second time we talk about it, we thought, okay, maybe it was the snowball last time. Maybe he was just going for the Triforce because, hey, he had the extra gold.
Yeah, may as well.
Doesn't seem that case. Most gold in the game. Offensive build coming through, chunking out top laners, out CSing AD carries. Carbon, he does disgusting things on the Rek'Sai.
Yeah, he almost managed to catch up to his own team member in the mid lane here, Choo-Choos, but he was ahead in farm of every other member of the Rich Gang other than Destiny. And let's have a look at a replay just to see whether Carbon does anything, because he was on the other side of the map a lot of the time.
So we'll roll this tape. It's earlier into the game, and Carbon's at the front, chunking out the turret like we spoke about. We're waiting for the engage. They just poke out Huey. I think Huey is going to make one of his big engages. They did not work for him this game. Diving into so much AoE damage. This is where they take out Ejim very early, and we don't see Ahri grouping just yet. So Ahri's damage or Ahri's gold is for naught to be. They have to use the Gnar just to pick up Fence Boy. But when Ahri comes in, you can see how much burst damage she's doing. Choo-Choo's, a lot of this game was clearing farm in lanes. He was caught in transition. He wasn't picking up the big kills, but it was that final one when he finally killed Destiny that allowed Legacy to finally close out this game.
Yeah, and those mid-game fights for Rich Gang, I mean, we can't count them out here. They were going very, very close to even in those fights. Of course, often losing objectives afterwards, but playing fantastically otherwise.
But it's not the Rich Gang we remember from the Challenger Series. It's not even the Rich Gang from the first couple of weeks. They were so behind in rotations, especially. Yeah. They've been all about the early game, picking up the turrets, starting the Dragon Snowball. They definitely couldn't get that happy in this game. Look, it was hard opposition. Legacy, they are one of the top teams in the OPL. We expect to be seeing them around finals time, and they were convincing winners against Rich Gang.
Yep, that being said, we're going to follow Legacy as next game they're going to be taking on Avant-Garde with another rematch of the PAX Finals. Ladies and gentlemen, don't go anywhere. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Oceanic Pro League. We're here for our second match of the night. Of course, Legacy just played, and we have to let you know exactly who our most valuable player is. And this time, it's going to be Carbon.
How could it be anyone but Carbon? He did things on a jungler you just don't expect, massing up the gold, highest gold in the game, split pushing threat. No one could split against him. Usually, like, when it's a Z game, we're like, okay, who can split push against the Z? No one thinks, all right, who can split push against the damage Rek'Sai?
Yeah, well, of course, Rich Gang didn't have anyone prepared, and when you're out farming both solo laners of the enemy team, it's a pretty good performance. And Carbon just showing that if you're in the jungle, you can still carry.
And Legacy, look, they pick up their first victory. They need another one to even it up with Direwolves. Of course, they'll have the same games played. They'll have the same record if they can pick up that win, and then everything will rely on that head-to-head matchup, you have to think.
Yeah, well, of course, and I have a feeling it's going to come down to the bottom lane here as well. I mean, Tallywacker playing fantastic on more of a supportive champion here in Sivir, but he's now up against Avant-Garde's bottom lane in Misui and Johnny, and those guys have been going off recently, Johnny especially.
Yeah, Avant-Garde, they got that big win against Sudden Fear, but the statistic we saw away, it wasn't the Sword of the Occult coming through from Johnny, although that was very nice. It was Johnny's kill participation in that game, and consistently over the way on the Thresh. Johnny's Thresh has been so impressive.
Yeah, it's been ridiculously strong, and as you can see, 2-1 on Thresh, managing to pick up all of their victories, but 0-3 on everything else. So we'll see whether that's actually going to be what he focuses on here, whether he can pick up that champion.
I mean, in those 2 victories on Thresh, 93% kill participation. Of course, 100% coming out in his last series. He looked wonderful in that champion. He could build a Sword of the Occult, feel great about it, get that big flaith burst damage. I know how much you enjoyed that.
That was good
times. The big 80 scaling coming out on that item, on that ability. Looked great. It's the pick pressure coming through from Thresh. And Misui, new to the 80 carry role for Avant, of course, replacing Veritas on that lineup.
Yeah.
He's more of a standard 80 carry. He definitely doesn't have the same carry flavor that we saw coming through from Veritas, but he's been very serviceable in his own right. And when Johnny's on form, especially on that Thresh, so many players can come out of that bot lane duo.
Oh, yeah, and Misui sort of had a difficult time early on because, of course, having to fill some very big shoes, and we were doubting his performance just a little bit, but, by this time, he's looking great. And his Corki, his comfort champion, he lost his first match on it, but has since picked up a victory and has been looking very, very strong. And it's actually becoming Avant-Garde's strongest point of the map here.
Yeah, strength and comfort, I think, is the best way to describe a lot of Avant's play.
Yeah.
When they got Porky back in the top lane, they've got that comfortable tank role player in the top lane. When we can see Maz pick up the Corki, pick up his strong champions, when everything's working for Avant, they look good. They look shades of the team that had so much success at the end of 2014. When they're really challenged, and of course this is Legacy, a team that are going to play pick flavor, they're going to play very, very aggressive, that's when Avant struggle a little bit. So it's the second half of the season. We're going to see Avant start to have these return matchups. They've got their settled roster now. They need to step up and get some wins on the board.
Yeah, and of course, the teams are going to swap sides here as well, so we'll see whether, the victory can be picked up for Avant when they're on the red side. That may change up things here just a little bit because, of course, Legacy made short work of them first time round.
And look, the Veigar ban comes through. So already getting the respect Veigar bans is Ejim. Veigar support is so respected on this patch 5.3. When we move to 5.4, maybe it'll fall off a little bit, of course, without the instant cast on the event horizon. But maybe it'll still be a top pickup. It's hard to say.
Yeah, we'll see whether that does come through. But of course, for now, it is going to be the respect ban for Chelby's Nidalee here as well. I like that one a lot. Kalista and Lissandra are going to hit the bench once more. Pretty standard bans to come down, but of course, focusing on Misui here with that Kalista ban. That's interesting.
Misui, again, new to that kind of high-level competitive 80 carry role. His champion pool, maybe they just think it's limited. Maybe they think it falls away after the Corki. So maybe they'll even steal away the Corki here or Legacy. It doesn't really seem to fit Tallywhacker's playstyle. He loves the Graves, he loves the Kalista, he loves the in-your-face burst. But they're banning Kalista on the blue side, so they clearly don't value picking up that Kalista, at least this game.
Yeah, but the Rek'Sai is going to fall down, and that's going to mean Cardred Scion's left up, and we may see some lumberjack action in the top lane.
Yeah, the insta-lock Scion. Scion top's been... This is over Kassadin, we have to mention. 5.3 Kassadin, so we haven't seen
and
the
Kensty's Kassadin as well.
Yeah, we haven't seen the Riftwalks one, and you made a great... This is probably going to be the mid-lane Kassadin that propelled Kensty to become the first Oceanic player to become a challenger in North America. It still plays a lot of Kassadin now. Definitely his strongest champion. It's a risk to live this open against Avant.
Very dangerous. Choo-Choo's with an immediate Yasuo hover. We'll see whether that comes through. Tallywacker has the option to pick up his Sivir once more. Another time, he is going to be on that more utility-based AD carry. Going to be against a Morgana this time, though, so a few disengage options with that Black Shield. And the lock-in here for Ejim's Leona, and I love this. Get Ejim on a champion that can throw out so many different sources of CC and get fights started. That's what I'm talking about.
And it's confidence to pick that Leona into the Morgana. Could be a Morgana support, of course, could still be a mid-top lane Morgana. We've seen so much flexible Morgana picks across the board. The thing about Morgana is that you can still use your CC on the target that it has the Black Shield, then just change your focus and go to a secondary target. You still have initiation options, even if it is a Leona versus Morgana support matchup.
Yeah, and you've got that Solar Flare that hits in an AoE as well. You can only save one person with that Black Shield, so we'll see whether Ejim can get them in the right positions, of course. It's a little bit hard to land it. There's a little bit of sort of ramp-up time to actually have that stun come through. But, of course, a lot of trust being put into Ejim. He's a fantastic support player.
And we spent so much time talking about comfort on the Avant side. We're getting some real comfort picks coming through. It's not just Kensti. We see Maz. He's got his mind over that Corki. There'll be a very standard lock-in. A very powerful champion is Corki. The Trinity Force Power Spike. We talk about it every time Corki comes up because it's just so damn powerful.
Oh, yeah, and it's going to be Chelby on the Jarvan here as well, unless that's going to go to Porky in the top side. Haven't seen him play that one, and Chelby, although he hasn't played Jarvan yet in the OPL, in the past, we've seen him go very deep on that champion.
And that's the way he likes to play. We see him in the enemy jungle. We see him playing super aggressively. Even on the Nidalee, he's always trying to just poke around, take every advantage he can get. And he's the one that's really the aggressive person on this team. He's the one that wants to make things happen. And Jarvan, he can make things happen in both good and bad ways. Sometimes he's helping, sometimes he's helping.
Yeah, Jarvan, I'm helping. That's exactly right. We'll see what the answer is going to be from Legacy. They need to pick up a mid laner and, of course, that jungler here as well. Tallywack is hovering over an Udyr pick, which I don't think is going to come through. But Ahri, she's up again. They're going to lock it in, and Udyr is going to be the lock-in here for Carbon.
So, he likes farming.
He likes farming.
We actually just talked about Saint Vicious. He loved farming up on that Udyr, and the farming's not going to stop with the Udyr.
No, definitely not. We'll see whether he goes full Trick 2G with it, picking up both Tiger and Phoenix stance, never leaving the jungle. I don't know whether that will happen because his friends need help on the map. And just don't really know what to expect. Of course, having the On the Hunt plus an Udyr here is fantastic. Of course, one of the things that Udyr struggles with is getting kited a little bit.
Absolutely. So he's going to have that extra burst of movement speed. Sion as well, you know, has so much consistent CC in a fight.
Yeah.
Once he's used his ultimate, popping that On the Hunt, he can actually stay close. He can get the auto attacks. He might even see a Frozen Mallet come out from Sion just to add to his bevy of CC and just be so sticky. And then again, it's going to be Ahri and Sivir in the backline doing consistent damage over a fight. But the Udyr, it's such a big question mark. We have to assume it's going to be a jungle Udyr. We have to assume he's going to be trying to get in Chelby's face and counter an aggressive jungler with just the most aggressive dueling jungler you could pick up in the Udyr.
Yeah, but it is going to be a last-minute switch over to the Rumble here for Porky. Porky's Rumble to come down, and again, we're going to see the Jarvan Rumble combo with that Cataclysm Equalizer.
But we did not see that. That was a mouthful.
I don't know how that quite worked. Yep.
Bless you.
Thank you. Thank you.
It didn't work out last game, you have to say, the Rumble Jarvan combo. They now even have the Soul Shackles for a bit more lockdown, so perhaps they can get the massive equalizer that Rich Gang could just never claim in the previous game. But this is an Udyr comp, so you have to think there's going to be a lot of strategic play, a lot of rotating around the map, taking camps, getting early push. That was the flavor in the previous game with the Sivir, was rotations and taking turrets. If they can recreate that, stay away from teamfights, even though they've got a good teamfight team, especially in the early game, get a nice gold advantage and just kind of trivialize all the AoE burst coming through from Avant. Legacy should have this in the late game.
Yeah, we'll see whether they do. Of course, I very much like the Corki pickup when you've got this mid-game power spike of the Equalizer Cataclysm combo around that first dragon fight, because if Misui manages to get, you know, a Fade Sheen by the time that one comes through, he's got a lot more damage potential than you have to think Destiny had in the last fight.
Well, you have to think Avant, they're doubling down on the mid-game. We've got the Rumble for Dragon Control, we've got the Corki for pushing, Trinity Force Power Spike comes through. If they've got a Dragon or two in their pocket, they're going to be so strong in the mid-game. And Legacy, they're more fine-tuned to the late game, but Udyr is the big question mark, because Udyr can get a lot of things done. He can put a jungler so far behind. He duels so well. He moves around the map well. And how they play around this Udyr pick, I think will decide how the early game turns out for Legacy. If they can be super aggressive, hold back the power power spikes coming through from Avant and get the late game just that damn sooner, I think they'll be just fine.
Yeah, well, we'll see what happens, of course. If you guys at home think that Legacy are going to be the victors here, make sure you tweet it out to us. Use that hashtag IamOPL and include hashtag AVWin or hashtag LegacyWin and let us know exactly what you think, because both of these comps looking dangerous in different ways.
Hashtag LGCWin.
LGC.
I think we're going for.
Did Legacy. I say LCG?
I think you said Legacy.
Oh, yeah.
Close enough.
LGC.
We got it on the,
my bad.
We got to confirm now. Hashtag LGC win.
Otherwise, that would have been a mouthful, and you wouldn't have been able to get all of the extra text into your tweets, ladies and gentlemen.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It is up on your screen, though, of course. You did see that one, so yes, it has been confirmed. Thank you very much, Papa Smithy.
We do have statistics about these things. We have to get them correct.
Yeah, it's true. My goodness, you can't just be tweeting ludicrous things towards no one in particular. But one thing that I want to go back to the game here, ladies and gentlemen.
Sure?
We've got sidetracked just a little bit. Cardred's Scion. He's 100% win rate on it so far. Has been almost immortal. I believe he's 100% win rate if we're having a look. Yes, it is.
And Swiper's 2-0.
Yeah.
Have we seen a Scion lose? I'm gonna guess. I'm going to say no.
I'm not. I can't quite remember, but across those two teams, definitely not.
Yeah, the top teams, they're really favoring these sticky, strong frontline tanks. That's what they want. They want tanks that can get in the middle of a fight, stick with the consistent CC coming through, and just cause havoc in the front. They're not doing big damage. Of course, Scion in laning phase, his wave clear I probably underrate. You just max the E, roar at those minions. If you roar at the minions as they're breaking, kind of like Twisted Fate throwing out his red card in the middle of a minion wave as it's kind of coming into the lane in a line. You do so much AoE wave clear that just with 1 point in your queue, you're just clearing those waves instantly. So you have great damage in terms of clearing minions in the early game. Okay, in the late game, not really about damage, but you have the armor shred on your E. You have so many different types of CC, not even counting your ultimate. You just disrupt so much, and he's so reliable. You know that Sion, whatever happens, is going to show up 4,000 health, with all the armor in the world, and whenever you're an 80 carry and you see Scion locked in, you're like, oh dear.
Yeah, oh dear indeed. So we'll see whether they are going to have the movement. Of course, Tallywacker, Mizui though, he's going to have to be the one worrying about this sign. He's got the Valkyrie, but of course on a fairly long cooldown. So if Legacy find a way to get rid of that Valkyrie and then use that unstoppable onslaught in order to get Cardred right on top of this Corki, things could get dangerous.
And the issue you have with Corki is it's a Trinity Force use. You're about burst, you're about those excellent trades in the early game, you're about turret damage. You're not about bursting through a Scion. You don't have the hyper carry potential of perhaps a Jinx or a Vayne in the late game. You're not really a tank buster, so you're going to struggle to kill the Scion however ahead is. If he's super overtuned, that'll just be comical. You'll just be sitting there spamming your spells out, watching, just really trying very hard with 3 rotations of Trinity Force procs to kill the shield, which, it's a bit depressing. But
yeah,
that's the reality here, is that who's going to be killing this Scion if he gets going?
Yeah, well, there's the fact that, the only true tank on the side of Avant-Garde is going to be Chelby on this Jarvan.
And that was the same story last time that we saw the Rumble-Jarvan combination.
Yeah.
It was the Jarvan as a solo frontline, not even a Lulu to kind of burst him up in terms of health. And look, it didn't work out for Huey. He was 1-7-11, I believe, in the previous game. Just died instantly when he tried to engage. And that's kind of the danger when you're running these one-tank comps, especially from the jungle. Unless you get really going, unless you start snowballing and double down on the really early defensive items, you're just going to die on all the AoE.
Yeah, is that going to mean that a lot of the pressure is going to be on Kensti and him really performing on this Kassadin, which he's very comfortable on?
I think to some degree. Kassadin in the late game, we know how much of a terror is. He's even a frontline initiator to some degree. You can go in there, put the force balls out, AoE slow, Zhonya's. You do act as a frontliner, much like Lissandra, so a lot of pressure comes to him. Again, the big question mark to me is Carbon. If he can hold down Chelby, if he can make him irrelevant, if Jarvan's so far behind that he's basically an ultimate bot and then just dying in the AoE, I think Carbon's done his job.
Yeah, and Carbon on the Udi here as well for the first time that I've ever seen him, but we are going to hop onto the Rift, ladies and gentlemen, for Legacy taking on Avant-Garde for the second time here in the OPL. First rematch that we have for our second day. Carbon actually going to start off as a adorable Phoenix here. And Phoenix versus Tiger Stance Udyr. Do you have any thoughts on that particular option?
I think
at this current state?
I think in solo queue, the Tiger stance makes a lot of sense because you do those surprising burst trades on your ganks, but I feel like he's going to be more focused about AoE clearing down the waves. We can see he's already skilled Phoenix stance, so that's definitely the best stance for just taking down minions. Of course, you could just get points in both, like you say, and be all-out offensive. It makes you very, very squishy, but he's got a Scion, so going full offense, even maybe recreating the Trinity Force build that he won the last game. Okay, it's probably not going to be the Warrior enchant, just because, again, not too much physical damage coming out of Udyr, but just going for a very offensive build is opened up when you have the most reliable of massive tanks like Scion in the top lane.
Yeah, and speaking of Scion, Cardrid's actually just having a stare off with the Baron wall here. Might actually be discovered from Porky. But has a pink ward in his inventory as well. And we'll see where the Legacy go for any funny business early on.
That's very strange. Of course, Carbon wants to get back. So Cardrid wants to get back and clear a camp. He puts it down.
He's a very large Scion to go unnoticed. Finally just hits Porky on the back, but I mean, Porky didn't even notice him then. Maybe he's invisible.
Cardrid, maybe he's surprised by the lack of lane swap because he will not be getting to pick up an early camp because we so often see the Carbon and the Scion walking to the Raptors, dying to that camp, clearing it. You can start with the shield, even get some of the health coming through from the passive on the W and enter lane just happily. But in this game, yeah, no suicide Scion play coming through.
Not going to come through, and Choo-Choo's actually taking a lot of damage level 1 here from Kensti. Both of these mid laners actually opting for that flask, so Choo-Choo's not wanting to go for that Doran's ring, wants to have some more of this sustain. I
really appreciate Choo-Choo's respecting the harass coming through from a Kassadin. This is not something we see Chief Swift do. He's happy to take Doran ring against a Kassadin, as say, for example, the LeBlanc and the LeBlanc vs. Kassadin matchup, and then just count on the fact that Spooks will make an early visit to the mid and justify the early combat stats coming through. You have to respect that Kassadin has a targeted harass spell that gives him magic shield, does ranged magic damage to you. If you just take those 2 potions, you can actually be poked out of lane against a Kassadin. And if that opens up room for Kassadin to farm, if he can build up a CS advantage, we all know what Kassadin's like in the late game.
Yeah, and that isn't to mention the fact that Choo-Choo's, who's about to get ganked here from Chelby, flashes out of the way from the EQ, but takes a lot of damage for it, and successful gank already here from Chelby.
It's massive that now Choo-Choo's will have to play more defensively with his flash down, will not be able to get the auto attack harass that much into Kensti. It should open up room for Kensti to farm. And again, the moment you get closer to that Catalyst, closer to that Rod of Ages, closer to late game, we know how crazy Kassadin can be then.
Oh yeah, Cardrid just going to use his abilities to clear out these minions from underneath the turret. And I love that Lumberjack Silent Skin. It's just fantastic. Porky heading down just to get some deep vision here. As that minion going to go wide just a little bit. And how does this lane really work out in the early stages here, Papa?
I mean, Rumble gets a pretty free lane. At Scion, he can put out some pressure. He can push you under turret because, again, he has great pushing. But his kill pressure without strong jungle ganking is pretty minimal. So Rumble, he has a lot of tough matchups. We already saw a tough matchup against Nah in the previous game. But against Scion, he'll happily farm. They'll split farm, and it'll just be, will that massive equalizer hit that kind of changes the team fight with just one cooldown? Or will it just be the free farm Scion showing up and doing disgusting things?
Yeah, just being a nuisance in these fights. Choo-Choo's going to have his wave pushing back into Kensti here. You can see he has managed to stretch out that CS lead, but quite a huge minion wave for Kensti to farm up as he comes through. Of course, things equalizing just a little bit, but having the flash available for this, that's going to be very necessary here as the multiple stuns come through. There's the charm, and first blood for Ejim.
No wards on the bottom side of the map, completely unsighted with his roam. Udyr is ganking, we mentioned it before, very kiteable champion, has to gap close. So much easier when you've got a Leona in your back pocket.
Yeah, and the Zenith Blade just getting her right in there, able to use that Shield of Daybreak to stun up the targets, and then Bear Stance, you saw Carbon wait for that one. Oh, Zenith Blade going just a little bit wide here. Is Tallywhacker just going to say thank you very much for the mana? Actually, no, I think he sort of missed the spell shield, unfortunately. But are going to be able to continue clearing out this wave. And we've seen this matchup quite a few times here, the Corki into the Sivir, and there are sort of pros and cons for both sides.
Absolutely. I mean, Corki, of course, his main harass tool, his main lane dominance tool is hitting that phosphorus bomb. It has that longer range than, of course, it used to back in the day, so you can reliably hit it. Of course, Sivir, she can gobble up that cooldown with the spell shield, get mana back. Of course, it does leave her open to potentially taking harass from the Dark Binding coming through from Juni. But again, you have a good, safe laning matchup for Sivir.
Yep, Cardred continuing to take some harass here from this Flame Spitter, but just being frustrating on this Scion. Has an ability to clear out this wave just a little bit more. And you said that this was going to be a bit of a farm off, and it looks to be exactly that. Choo Choo's now with a little bit of a level advantage. Still doesn't have level 6, though, as Carbon's coming back round again. But Shelby's here for the counter gank. But in comes Ejim. First off, though, it is going to be Choo Choo's falling down. Avantgarde are going to answer back. Carbon going down incredibly low. The Flame Spitter going to get it. And Porky picks up the kill. Kensti still not level 6. The equalizer there, not really doing all that much for Avantgarde. But Porky gonna be towards this Dragon side, and we'll see whether they can put some pressure on.
The 6-minute, 8-member gank in the mid lane coming through. Not sure what league this is for a second there, but so much pressure coming through. The double teleports coming through. The result, however, 2 kills to Avantgarde.
Yeah, Kensti might have to be a little bit careful against Cardred here. He's harassing him back just a little bit with his ranged abilities, but more than happy to clear out some creeps, and he is going to be fine. Kensti heading back to base. Has just hit level 6.
Yeah, but nowhere near finishing his Catalyst. Only was able to pick up the Ruby Crystal. Actually does have the gold to pick it up now. He chose not to back, so he was close to his Catalyst. He really wants that as his first big purchase. But now he's against Choo Choo's freshly itemed up, has the Fiendish Codex, and against a Cassian that just really doesn't want to be there, wants to go back and shop.
Yeah, you can see Legacy as well focusing so much on this vision. 3 vision wards sitting in their back pockets. You can see Choo Choo's went back, got one of those, some sight wards here as well. Lots of consumables, wants to just stay alive in this lane and complement that Fiendish Codex pickup. Boomerang going to find Johnny on the way back as Missouri just continues to clear out this wave. 3 CS advantage here for the Sivir, not going to be too much of a problem as Shelby's got a level lead, but Carbon still more than happy to go toe-to-toe. Of course, Udyr doesn't really mind about level 6.
Yeah, Udyr's just farming. With the Ruby Crystal, it might actually be the Juggernaut enchant coming through, just for a bit of cost-effective health and tenacity. It opens up other boots choices. As across the map we see Harass coming through, but no real threatening of kill pressure.
Yeah, Porky, level 7 against Cardred's level 6 here. Cardred still managing to hold on to an advantage as far as that CS is concerned. Carbon looking to try and put some pressure onto Porky here, who flashed in that mid lane, you have to remember. Doesn't get hit, but Choo Choo's is here as well. Unstoppable Onslaught's there. Porky just gets charmed and orbed, and he's gonna die. Choo Choo's picking up a nice roam kill.
A Legacy showing that, hey, the easiest way to work around the lack of kill pressure on Carbon's Udyr ganks, always have a mate with you, whether it's the Ahri coming through, but previously it was Ejim. Their map rotation, they're getting so many members unseen into ganking positions. Avant, they need to work on their warding because they are severely being out-rotated by Legacy, though they are starting up the Dragon.
Yeah, they have been seen there, though. As you can see, Ejim hanging about. This Dragon is in full vision of Legacy. They have to go for a miracle steal as Udyr trying to find his way in. Ejim's just going to get exploded, though, as Kensti picks up that kill. Orbit Deception, not enough, and Kensti even gets the Dragon. This Kassadin starting to go off.
You saw how close they were from stealing away the Dragon. There was actually no smite available from Shelby. It was a risky Dragon call.
Whoa.
Trying to open up time, Ejim trying to open up time for Choo Choo to get in for the harass. Almost stole away the Dragon, almost picked up some exit kills, but all those almost amount to nothing, and the Dragon is taken by Avant.
Yeah, Avant now storming ahead. They've got a 1,000 gold lead, and with that first Dragon that they've picked up, you know, this Kassadin rolling as well, that is very important. Now with a 400 gold lead here in the mid lane, doing quite well. Actually, more closer to a 600 gold lead. No, 400. We're at. Mathematics. Not my strong suit, but I managed to get it this time.
And mathematically, he is 400 gold away from a Rod of Ages. So he doesn't really want to shop. He's just happy to kind of chill out in mid lane. Of course, he doesn't want to take any damage trades with Choo Choo's. Choo Choo's actually low in mana, so not really a big deal just this second. He just wants to comfortably farm and pick up that Rod of Ages before too long.
Yeah, and Choo Choo's roaming towards that top side. They did give away a Dragon with that one, but keeping Porky down is going to be important here because Cardred wants to get to that unkillable Scion stage. Be able to lock down the members of Avantgarde, which is going to be very difficult. What with Black Shields, Kensti being Kassadin, that is just a problem in unto itself. Ejim gets spotted out by Johnny here. Just wants to pick up some money with that puddle.
Yeah, everyone except for Johnny has a movement ability. Not necessarily a blink, although Kensti and Maz very, very safe on Kassadin and Corki respectively.
Yep.
But plenty of gap close coming up. Going to be difficult to pick up the picks, but maybe with the early pick wards we saw coming through from Legacy, they understand that if they pick up the picks, they really open themselves up to some pretty straightforward team fights.
Yeah, and Tallywacker as well on his very comfortable Sivir here. can just pop that ultimate and get his team into these fights. You can see he's farming up incredibly well. Does have that BF sword to complement his early pickaxe purchase. Misui very close to grabbing that Trinity Force, about 1,600 gold before that one's going to appear. And we'll see whether they make any moves.
Yeah, in general, everyone very on point with their item timings. Kensti very, very close to the Rod of Ages. Will be about a 12-minute Rod of Ages, at least at this point, being picked up. We already see the Juggernaut and the Warrior Enchants being finished by Udia and Chelby on the Jarvan, respectively. Item timings very similar across the board. You have to think Avant. They're heading gold. They have a dragon in their pocket. They're feeling very good about the start of this game.
Oh, yeah. But, of course, Carbon throwing them a curveball with this Udia. We'll see what that plans on doing as we head towards the mid-game portion of this one. Cardred is continuing to farm up here in the top side. You can see Chelby hanging around this mid lane still. They've put a lot of focus onto Choo-Choo's here in the mid lane. But of course, when it's an Ahri who's now got Spirit Rush, that almost seems like a waste of time.
Yeah, Choo-Choo's and Carbon are basically a duo at this point, roaming around the map, trying to look for a pick. Between the two of them, quite a lot of lockdown CC. If you get in range to actually put down that bear stance, has Flash available now. So they do have significant kill pressure as a duo. We haven't mentioned Shelby's name a few times. He's 1-0-2, he's doing fine, but they're looking for the gank on Cardred.
Yeah, does manage to get in here with the EQ combo, slows him down with the W there as well, blowing the Flash after that Cataclysm comes through. And Cataclysm's like the auto flash tool, isn't it, really?
Unstoppable Onslaught, not that useful running away from Jarvan, so the flash is a very big pickup. We see a repeat gank in the next 5 minutes. They do have significant kill pressure early on in the game against Cardred.
Yeah, we'll see whether Cardred can go back and pick up the items that he wants to. Actually opting in for a Spirit Visage first pickup because, of course, he is against a lot of magic damage in this double AP comp. But probably wants to get that Frozen Heart ASAP as well, just because that cooldown reduction is so good. And just having flat resists on Sion, considering the fact that his passive will naturally give you health, is just a really good idea, because effective health is the aim of the game for these tanks.
Yeah, 100% agree. It's a very good pickup. The cooldown reduction will help him get that extra spell rotation out in team fights. He wants to move towards 40% CDR because, again, probably not going to be a lot of damage to speak of, but a lot of utility in his spells. So cooldown reduction, tankiness, and natural tankiness, all what we really associate with Sion.
Yeah, Kensti doing a great job clearing out these creeps. Now has an 8 CS advantage as Johnny gets caught by a bit of a charm there in the river, but Choo-Choo's not going to be able to go for any kills here as the Dark Binding goes wide.
12-minute Rod of Ages was the timing for Cassidy.
My goodness.
So Kensti definitely on form. 22 minutes, he will be significantly stronger than he is right now. So we'll just like that to stack up. He's not in a rush for any sort of fights. Probably won't be able to choose, though, because in a minute we will see Dragon coming up. Avant will want to double down, pick up that second Dragon, work their way towards the third. But with the stacking item compared to the completed items on Legacy's side, maybe the items will throw a curveball into the mix.
Yeah, well, that's true. And 20% CDR for that Morellonomicon here as well for Choo-Choo's. Doesn't have his blue buff back just yet as he looks for that Orb of Deception onto Kensti. Going down in mana here just a little bit because that, of course, has been increased in cost just a little bit.
We didn't mention at all Atlas, but the top turret has fallen down just to Cardred's pressure. So there's actually the first turret on the board for Cardred and for Legacy. So they will be able to push in aggressive. They have more choices regarding wave control. Of course, they are able to push the wave out further and get more and more information. Maybe that will open up some roams into the enemy red buff and to contest that objective, but the teleport's coming through.
Yeah, there's a teleport from Porky. Wants to get this equalizer down. Johnny, though, getting focused. Carbon going to get that kill. There's the equalizer right on top of Choo-Choo's, who's forced to flash Misui in the backline. Ejim not going to be able to stun him up just yet as that Valkyrie was beautiful. And Choo-Choo's falls down. Ejim as well. 2 for 1 here for Avant-Garde, and they have control of this area if Chelby doesn't get caught. Kensti quite low here as well as Cardred going to charge up that Q. You can see taken no damage. Perfect play from Avant-Garde, ignoring the Sion.
And you can see the Sion and the Udia, the two ignorable champions, were ignored. All the carries fell down. You need to be fighting around your carries, Legacy. All these two hyper tank picks, they just don't pay off. Avant, they overstay in terms of doing damage to this mid-turret. I don't know if they're healthy enough to pick up the Dragon.
Yeah, and Cardred, of course, at full health. Tallywacker finally coming into this fight. He wasn't there. That was a 4v5 situation, which Legacy are going to feel okay about because, of course, it didn't go horribly wrong. Avant-Garde now tanking up this Dragon. They're losing health as that Boomerang going to find Misui there. Scrying Orb going to be used. Dragon now down to half health. Carbon wanting to come in and try and do something here as the Valkyrie's used. Of course, no equalizer for this next fight. Legacy might now have control of this Dragon, but it's reset one more time. We've got take 2 for this Dragon approach, and we'll see whether Avant-Garde want to try and do something because, of course, Carbon so low. Cardred losing health here a little bit as Choo Choo's trying to use the fact that he's still healthy to zone out the members of Avant-Garde, and it's going to be successful.
It's the mana bars that are even more of a concern for Avant than the health bars. If they had stuck around, they could maybe have bought enough time for Porky's equalizer to come back. It's about 5 seconds away at this point. But the mana bar, specifically Maz, had no mana on the Corki, so smart to back away. It evens up the Dragon. Kenzie was able to pick up his blue buff, significant for the Castan to have a bit of wave clear against Ahri, and everything resets now. And on the whole, apart from the global gold from the turret, things are very even.
Yeah, and Choo Choo's going for that standard Abyssal Scepter second item. Of course, now with the changes to Ahri, you've mentioned this a couple of times, able to actually have everything in range for that Abyssal Scepter to work.
Yeah, with the shorter range in 5.3, basically all of her abilities, barring the max range Q, are going to proc the Abyssal Scepter. So it's a wonderful pickup. You already get into fairly close range using the Spirit Rush anyway, so it's good and smart to have a bit of extra resist. You know, combine the Abyssal with that Zhonya's, so you're able to get in the front, not explode yourself, and do massive damage to the backline.
Yeah, and Carbon going for a different option here. Not going to get that Trinity Force. I'm disappointed, Carbon, because I very much enjoyed you being that split push Rek'Sai in the last game, but going to go for possibly a Spirit Visage to tie in with that Turtle stance, give him a little bit more health back, but maybe even that Banshee's Veil just to stop a bit of the upfront CC to come through from Avant-Garde.
And no offensive options whatsoever. That probably suggests that he won't be looking to split push in the late game. If there was a Trinity Force, he could still have been used as a viable split push. Of course, so much AoE wave clear with the Phoenix stance. But he's going full tank. He is maxing the Phoenix stance and the Turtle. That suggests to me, going to be looking at just a lot of team fight.
Yeah, On the Hunt actually going to be blown here as Ejim just flashes on top of Misui. So much CC here as well as Porky teleports in. There's the Equalizer. Tallywhacker's going to die. The Equalizer was beautifully placed as Porky just going to try and burn Ejim to the ground. He gets silenced. These auto attacks doing a lot of damage, but he gets stunned underneath the tower. My goodness, Leona takes a lot of killing.
Absolutely, guys. So many tanky stats when she pops a W, but does fall down eventually. Porky gets 2 kills. He's gone for perhaps the most Equalizer-centric build of all, rushing the Liandry's Tormentor combined with his Sorcerer's Shoes. The Equalizer will be doing massive damage, but definitely no Zhonya's, no stasis available to him just yet.
Yeah, but of course, Porky has been landing these equalizers beautifully in these fights. I understand why he'd want to really invest into it because it's been beautiful so far. You may as well just continue that focus. Kensti now going to respond to Cardred, who's just relentlessly pushing across this map. Now to go for that Warden's Mail, and we'll see whether he turns that into a Frozen Heart or maybe even a Randuin's first up.
Credit to Carbon, though, understanding that there's no way that Avant have enough members to commit to defending this red buff. Has stolen away the buff. This is the pressure of Udyr. Has so much ability to clear camps fast, so quick and so difficult to kill. You can't pin him down, so he's going to get in your jungle and nick all your stuff.
Yeah, just stealing things is Carbon, and it makes sense here as well. Able to catch up here. Of course, Chelby having an early advantage because he farmed out a little bit longer. And Carbon going to find Johnny here as well as Misui tries to do some damage, but Carbon pretty tanky now with that Spectre's Cowl.
Yeah, the Roar coming through, doing quite a lot of damage as Tallywhacker finally going to DPS down this outer turret. Legacy, they were able to out-rotate Rich Gang last game. They've done the same thing here. 3 turrets to 1 actually puts them slightly ahead in gold despite a kill disparity and even some CS disparity for Avant.
Yeah, actually. Skill shot's going to be traded here. Johnny winning out on that one as Ejim just going to destroy a ward in his frustration. Shelby continuing to just hang around his own jungle. Legacy, they're looking for the picks at this stage. Of course, they've got this fantastic pick comp with the Charms, the Zenith Blades, all of Ejim's CC in their arsenal, and with Carbon there as well. I mean, it's not really a skill shot, but he has to get in there to get something done. So a face check, that'd be pretty good.
See, the first stun will be chained up by so many. That's not even talking about Cardred and Carbon being able to do a lot of CCing, especially from that melee range. So
yeah,
the CC continues, and Johnny, of course, can only make one person CC resistant. And to be honest, you throw that back shield onto Maz. If they just lead with the Q coming through from Ahri, that'll just burst through the Orb of Deception from a support, and the stuns will continue. So Avant, they really need Kenzie to be a frontliner. He's actually going to find Tallywhacker. Stops the back in the bottom lane.
Actually, Tallywhacker wanting to go aggressive here just a little bit, but Kensti going to Rift Walk out of the way. I would have thought that, you know, Kensti probably wanted to pick that fight, but not this time.
Not this time. The Rift Walk, defensive Rift Walk's interesting, but you look at the timer, 8 stacks, going to be 10 stacks at 22 minutes was the timer we spoke about. He's just trying to power up. He's sitting on quite a bit of gold. I believe he has enough for the Zhonyas. At this Dragon fight, it's going to be massive. He's going to be so close to the 10 stacks. Zhonya's completed. This is a massive Kassadin for 20 minutes.
Yeah, and it's the perfect time to hit that spike as well as a minute for the next Dragon. Looking scary here for the members of Legacy because this was the downtime for Avant-Garde. I mean, of course, Porky and Chelby always going to be relevant. Mizui picking up the Sorcerer's Shoes and the Trinity Force are great, but having Kensti sort of still waiting for that Zhonya's Hourglass, still waiting for the stacks on his Rod of Ages, now having that completed, Avant-Garde probably looking to make some moves around this map. You can see Legacy have managed to pull out a bit of an advantage as far as this gold's concerned, purely because that outer ring of turrets is dead. But if Avant-Garde put on the pressure, they'll close that gap so quickly.
And they have a Corki who has the mid-game, the 2 big mid-game items, the Trinity Force, the Sorcerer's Shoes. They haven't been able to put down the turret pressure yet, but as you mentioned, they have so much turret damage, and Ejim, he's in trouble.
Yeah, Ejim actually throws out the Solar Flare there as well, just wants to get some follow-up from his team. It's happy if he's tanking here as Choo Choo's. He's going to get caught by the Cataclysm, but manages to get out. That Cataclysm actually working out quite well here for Legacy as Porky comes around, but you can see the kills are coming left, right, and center. Choo Choo's going to get collapsed on, and Kensti going for the cleanup as the double kill comes in, and now Cardred, the only man alive. The flash into the mist Dark Binding was a bit embarrassing from Johnny, but Cardred, it's going to take a while, but he's going to die.
And of course, he'll come back with the passive. So can you ever really keep Sion down? He runs in, he's going to die. Let's be real. He's dead. This is undead Sion coming through. They still have, you have to say though, not really a lot of dragon damage. No smite available, no AD carry. They're not even going to pick up a big objective after killing that Sion.
Yeah, and that was such a messy fight here as well. I mean, Shelby got his Cataclysm down in a position that really locked members up, but Porky took a long time to get to that fight.
But Kensti, he was the real star. He's the crown jewel of this comp from Avant. And when you talk about messy fights against a Kassadin, already overtuned in items, 10 stack Rod of Ages, Zhonya's Sorcerer's Shoes, he's got everything going for him. And he was getting huge assassinations. He took out Tallywhacker just solo. And Legacy, they need to be so careful and work around the power of this Kassadin.
Yeah, and the power of this Porky Rumble here as well. 7-1-2 now with Leandries and that Zhonya's Hourglass at the same time. I mean, he's behind in farm, but he doesn't care. He's killing champions.
Absolutely, and you can see how the maps in this game has played out is that everything's been pushing aggressively, and Legacy have a big vision advantage. They just really can't take a team fight, especially right now against what Avant's putting out. So much damage, so much magic damage. No Aegis completed to really answer that. Though they're going to double down on structures. They want to swap for this mid turret.
Yeah, look at the equalizer to come through, but it doesn't really matter. Porky actually going to just go the golden flamethrower route as he might get caught out, gets stunned up as well. Solar Flare lands on a Porky. He finally dies. Kensti going to Zhonya's up. The charm lands from Choo Choo's as he tries to get the damage down, but you can see, oh, the Orbit Deception. No, my goodness, that Ignite just not enough as Mizui now has to deal with Cardred coming into him. Carbon actually running away very effectively. Kensti turns around and comes in. Now Cardred with some damage as he runs around in his death-defying form, but Legacy just going to melt in front of AV.
Even after a very messy engage where the top and mid laner engaged before the rest of the team was ready, you see how strong Avant is and how smart Kensti's use of the Rift Walk was in that fight. Of course, Kassadin has to be so careful with his use of mana now that the mana costs get really crippling after the 3rd or 4th mark, but he opened up so much space, was still able to do damage to the back line even after he'd been chunked out. Kensti's Kassadin, definitely by far his strongest champion.
Yeah, very, very scary. Mizui going to move around and just pick off this outer turret in the top lane. Easy as you like. Still half health. Avant-Garde going to be able to pick up another objective. So mid and top going to be taken down. Haven't answered the turrets completely from Legacy, who managed to get that middle lane in a turret. And they still have some wards on the map, but you can see Avant-Garde, they've now got complete vision control across everywhere.
Yeah, the moment they answered the massive turret discrepancy they were in, the kills shine through, the CS shines through. 4,000 gold is the advantage, and that's 4,000 gold with a late game Kassadin that's ready to go, ready to fight, working towards the void stuff you'd have to think to ensure that he's chunking both the front line and the back line. And Porky's Rumble, you mentioned it. that wasn't even an equalizer that decided a fight. That was an equalizer to buy time for his team. If they get the right combination of timings, if we see the Rumble Javanard ultimate they pick for, it's going to be huge.
Yeah, Choo Choo's going to use that ultimate. That Dark Binding was wonderful as Choo Choo's gets blown up by Corki and Kensti. And my good, Porky and Kensti, sorry. Corki wasn't actually there as Missouri just going to be hanging out here by the river. And is this going to be Avant-Garde starting the Baron? It is.
Corki, Porky, Kensti, Johnny, and Shelby. Not really confusing at all coming through from Avant. But what is going to happen is going to get so much Baron damage in. There's a lot of poke and engage coming through from Legacy. They are very hard engage. So it's going to be hard to DPS down this Baron.
Yeah, Cardred actually trying to be a nuisance here as well as Carbon's right in the mix. The Soul Shackle's onto Ejim, but that's the only member. Missouri going to use that heal as Kensti might get blown up. He does manage to get a kill for it as Porky now managing to rip through these members of Legacy. They've got 3 members alive. It's a 1 for 2 so far as Chelby's so incredibly low. This Avant-Garde lineup are team fighting beautifully today as Choo Choo's, he's still coming back from base.
Yeah, Legacy just trying to buy time, just trying to get Avant away from the Baron. They'll be successful on that. So look, it's not really ideal to pad the stats. 21-8 is the kill score in this game. Not ideal, but at least they keep the Baron up as an objective to be competed for.
Yeah, and actually Choo Choo's going to just continue to push out this mid lane here as well. Knows that Kensti's not going to be coming around to jump into him. And they've got a huge wave there on the bottom side as well. So Tallywhack are going to do some decent work clearing that one out. Now has the Phantom Dancer as well as the Infinity Edge. Now with sort of the old Infinity Edge crit potential as it was transferred to that Phantom Dancer.
But the double Void Staffs are completed for Avant. And even though they're very, very tanky, it's not 40 minutes Scion yet. He still is dying relatively quickly. And Udyr, I mean, the Udyr pick hasn't paid off. We haven't seen aggressive Udyr coming out from Carbon. He left Shelby to just farm his jungle happily. Didn't really put any pressure on the enemy jungle, barring stealing out a couple of buffs to answer global pressure coming through from Shelby's ganks. And in these team fights, you know, in reality, he's Udyr. He's able to get a couple of rounds of CC in the middle of a fight, doesn't do a lot of damage, and he's just dying to all the AoE coming out from Kensti and Porky.
Yeah, it's just a little bit too much here to deal with on the side of Avant-Garde, and Porky's just so huge on this Rumble. It's just ridiculous.
I believe he has the most gold in his team. He does, and that's a big thing to say when we've mentioned Kensti's name so many times, but 300 gold ahead of Kensti on a champion who's notorious for having a terrible time farming.
Yeah.
He's keeping in touching distance farm-wise, but it's the kills. 11 kills. You know, 3 more kills than a Legacy has as a team. He is massive on the Rumble.
Yep, so incredibly huge, and yet to demonstrate quite the damage potential of this Void Staff Equalizer. Avant-Garde are going to start off the Baron here, peel off pretty immediately because Legacy wanting to come round. The flash actually in response as Ejim tries to get to safety. It's dangerous being a support when you want to get that Baron vision down, and Avant-Garde staying as a team, but they're not on the Baron anymore.
You can see Avant's issue is they only have that singular initiate. We said the same thing last series. It's all about Shelby going in. And if they don't find the picture perfect engage, they're backing away. Their only way to force a fight is to start Baron with Dragon still respawning. But they don't have the tanky members to be even able to tank it up. It's not Scion taking no damage from this Baron. They're getting chunked out from Baron. So you have to see Legacy. They're kind of playing a dangerous game. They're happy for Avant to start the Baron because they're confident that Avant have to peel off. It's only Shelby getting very, very tanky, you know, with the Warmogs and some magic-resistant armor in his pocket. He's getting there, but it's only Dragon they can realistically expect Avant to rush down. They can just play the waiting game, assume that Avant will have to back away whenever they show their face at Baron.
Yeah, well, it seems to be working out here. And you mentioned Shelby, 2-1-15. You're right, he has had so much participation in these fights. And we mentioned that Shelby was going to be a huge boon here for Avant-Garde if he's playing well, and has been the showing as this inner turret's going down very low. Cardred's split push getting scary. Does have the teleport here as well as Porky, more than able to clear this one out. Actually, that Flame Spitter doing a lot of work, but Avant-Garde, they're just going to head down to Dragon, pick that one up.
It's the 3rd Dragon, so again, not a win condition just yet. They're not working towards the 5th Dragon for at least another 12 minutes. Choo Choo's, he's overextended. Kensti's got a large burst of damage on him already.
Yeah, Porky and Cardred are going to continue fighting here in the top lane, but you have to think this is the mid lane is where a lot of the action is going down. But Porky actually might be able to pick up a kill. There's the Unstoppable Onslaught, blocked by the flash of Porky. That was beautiful. The teleport out from Cardred, and I don't think you can burst down a Scion.
Actually, a favorable summoner trade for Cardred, you'd have to say, swapping Teleport for Porky's Flash. It was a very smart adjustment to Flash in front of the Unstoppable Onslaught. Wasn't able to pick up the exit kill, but guess what? Cardred's gone, and so's Baron.
Yeah, Baron is just going to die here to Avant-Garde. They're all going to use their empowered recalls and get back to base, and with that teleport down, Avant-Garde were no longer scared.
That was... You have to say the Flash for a teleport, not that good. The Flash for a teleport and Baron, it's all right.
All planned here from Porky, sorry. Beautiful
Skorky.
play. Porky, Doki. I think that's why Missouri actually changed his name to Maz here as well. Just didn't want to have another E on the end of an Avant-Garde name here as well, because Kensti, Chelby, Porky, Johnny, Missouri.
I've tried that one already. It's confusing.
It is difficult, I'm not going to lie. My goodness. But Rabadon's Death Cap has been finished by Choo Choo's. He's got a 3-item power spike to his own name as well. Kensti's still looking for that needlessly large rod portion of that hat.
But you can see what Choo Choo's has had to do. He understands that, okay, Zhonya's is probably the smarter choice in terms of living in these fights, but he just needs a pick. He needs to get a pick and to halt momentum. He doesn't actually have the freedom to go a more defensive-orientated item. He needs to pick up the Death Cap, because if he's not getting the deletion on a member, they've already shown they cannot win 5v5 team fights.
Oh, no. And that Boomerang just going to come through and try and save a ward, but it's not going to happen at this stage. Blade of the Ruined King from Missouri has been completed. Looking for that last Whisper as his next item, you have to think. Carbon does have a Sightstone for himself going towards a Randuin's Omen, you have to think, as his next item, as that Ruby Crystal can now build into the Giant's Belt. And Legacy trying to defend this inner turret. Cardred and Carbon pretty tanky here in the front line, but Cardred still taking so much burst.
Now you're saying pretty tanky. Cardred, it is a 32-minute Scion, but there's so much damage on Avant's side that he's deceptively squishy.
Yeah, Kensti actually going to Rift Walk out there and use his Zhonya's a little bit unnecessarily. This might mean that Legacy can find something. Chelby gets caught by a Charm. Carbon in that front line just getting chunked. Every opportunity that Avant-Garde have, they're able to do the damage to Legacy, and they'll take the inner turret and rotate around for the next.
Yeah, the use of Zhonya's, as you mentioned, by accident there, would definitely have taken away from a potential turret dive. It looked like they were positioning for it. They called it off, so at least the communication was on point about that mistake. They don't get the exit kills, but they get destruction. And at the end of the game, at the end of the day even, League of Legends is a game of structures. You take down that Nexus, you win the game.
Yeah, it's about killing the Nexus, so of course being able to get closer to it, probably a good idea here for Avant-Garde, as they're going to continue the pressure here towards the top side. Missouri using this Sheen proc so incredibly well. The tower's going to die. Cardred gets caught up here as well. There's the equalizer, not going to do too much, as Carbon just going to flash out of that Cataclysm as well. Choo Choo's, that's one round of spells from Kensti, and he's almost dead.
Yeah, Kensti's so strong. Smart to go for the early Void Staff against a double tank lineup. We've seen a lot more 4-carry, 5-carry lineups coming out, but with double tank, go for that Void Staff, still doing damage to the front line. And again, it's the fact that Cardred and Carbon can't tank the damage from the double AP. That's the big issue for Legacy.
Yeah, Carbon actually getting chunked out here as well. Avant-Garde wanting to go for that tower, but it is going to be Kensti picking it up with the Rift Walk. He does die for it though, as probably wishes that he had the opportunity to use a Zhonya's Hourglass. Choo Choo's gets slowed down to high heaven from all of the poke coming through from those harpoons, and the successful disengage, but every inner turret now dead for Avant-Garde, and they've got a huge lead, 9,000 at 33 minutes.
It was smart of Choo Choo to keep going aggressively, even as he started to get chunked out by Maz, because Maz actually used the last of his mana, putting down the Phosphorus Bomb, completely out of mana, no way to answer any of the pressure. So Legacy, they at least get their waves pushing, so at least buying themselves time, but I don't know if there ever will be a situation where Porky and Kensti aren't able to get through the front lines, because they're doing so much damage. The death cap is coming through next from Porky. We do not often get to talk about Rumble death caps. He never often hits that item timing this early at 35 minutes. But again, in terms of gold, still, I mean, 200 gold behind Kensti, but still massively overtuned for a top Rumble.
Yeah, and I mean, you often see the likes of Rumble building something like a Riley, something to keep him tanky, because of course it's not this far ahead that you find yourself on a Rumble, but this time that's what's happening. Carbon is going to use that ward, but it is going to get spot out almost immediately. Has decided to go for the Banshee's Veil option.
I mean, Carbon's been forced to get selfish stats because we've already mentioned he's dying in the front line. He couldn't afford to go Aegis because he needs to be a frontline tank. So does Kardred. But that means no Aegis against the strongest Rumble we've seen in many a month. So overtuned for damage. This Equalizer is literally going to rip Legacy apart.
Oh, yeah, and we've seen it time and time again, and it's going to take almost a catastrophe for Avant-Garde to really lose these fights, because if that Equalizer goes down in a spot that's not going to help them, that might be dangerous. But of course, we saw that in the last fight, and Avant-Garde still managed to come out ahead.
Kardred's trying to just create map pressure. He's trying to split push. He understands team fighting not going to be any fun for Legacy at this point, so he's just trying to push, and he probably will finally get this top turret after being delayed for so long. He's going to go for the brute force method, happily take down this turret. Carbon's top as well. They're hard committing to the push.
Yeah, of course, not going to be able to do anything about this Dragon. It is going to be the fourth one going down here for Avant-Garde. Wanting to make sure they solidify the opportunity for a fifth Dragon if they can. Inner turret in response here for Legacy, and it's probably the best that they could hope for here.
Absolutely. This is the only trade they could realistically go for. A bit of global gold for what was always going to be a formulaic fourth Dragon for Avant. There's no way they could look to contest. It doesn't look like it's going to get better short of the fifth Dragon. The fifth Dragon's only 6 minutes away, and I don't think there's a big item purchase that can come through. The Aegis for Carbon, okay, that's helping, but he needs selfish stats, to be honest. He needs to be at the front, forcing the Equalizer to be used upon him rather than getting to the backline, because if this backline falls down, Maz is going to get in there, Kensty's going to get in there, Aegis isn't going to matter.
Yeah, Tallywhacker, though, I mean, does have the Vampiric Scepter onto that trinity of fantastic items here for Sivir to really allow her to cut down tanky members. Chelby going to struggle, although he's got a Thornmail now, so I take it all back.
Yeah, I mean, not the best at taking down the front line, not the best tank buster as Sivir. She's okay. She's probably better than the Trinity Force users, but you know, she does struggle to get through those frontline tanks. And Chelby, he's doing it for his team. It's a very cost-effective tank build. 2,500 gold for that Warmonks. Getting the Thornmail for, I believe, 2,280 gold. It's not the random ones. He doesn't have the slowing effect, but there's so much CC from his kit and the other members of Avant. Just go for those selfish stats. Just get that Thornmail. So that if Tallywhack is just free-hitting Chelby, he'll at least last quite a long time.
Yeah, no, that's true. And Scrying Orb's going to be used here from Legacy just to spot out this Baron. Of course, it is just spawning now. Kardred continuing the split push, has the teleport available, and Avant-Garde, they're just going to start this one up straight away. Look at it just burn down this Baron all too easy. We'll see whether the steal might come in. Oh my goodness, that solar flare was fantastic, but Carbon just gets torn apart. Look at the Equalizer under multiple members. Ejim incidentally dies. Tallywhacker gonna fall down here as well, as Chelby is all the way in the front line. Sion melts like butter, and Choo-Choo's manages to get the jump. Kensty's gonna die. Choo-Choo's does answer for one, but he's the only one alive. And they trade the mid laners in the other direction, but Avant-Garde, that's 4 for 1.
You built up Porky's Equalizer, and it's shown for a second time. Just picture perfect, completely splitting apart Legacy's escape route. There was nothing they can do. Choo-Choo's alive. He's got assassination potential. He's got wave clear. It doesn't matter against 4 members. They're going to lose their inhibitor at minimum, and Avant played that team fight out perfectly.
Yeah, they are going to back off here. I thought that they might go for a victory, but of course, with Ejim just respawning Carbon not far behind, it might have been a tough ask. But only one inhibitor down. This does give Legacy something to hang on to this game, but 10,000 gold, it's still the gap.
I like that Morgana's taking it on her own back here. Johnny's trying to realize, okay, maybe I need to be the initiator. Righteous Glory and the Talisman. That's already a lot of movement speed.
My goodness.
Feels like a double Shirelia's from back in the day. But also going for the Zhonya's just to be able to get into the middle of the team fight, activate the Soul Shackles, go into stasis. It's only Chelby as a front line, but Johnny, she's doing her darndest just to get in there, the Morgana, and be that tanky front line.
Yeah, Porky actually going to face check here, though, but look at how deceptively tanky he is. There's the Solar Flare onto him, but he's only taken half of his health. Choo-Choo's, there's the Equalizer to come down as Choo-Choo's is looking for the kill. That Kensty's there. Carbon just getting chunked by the AV members. There's the Cataclysm as Kensty picks up Choo-Choo's. Porky just going to back. His work is done as Missouri just going to slow down Kardred with that Blade of the Ruin King. Carbon running for his life as Kensty. He flashes for the double kill. Tallywhacker completely out of position. Phosphorus Bomb, triple kill now for Kensty as Kardred gonna fall down to Porky's damage, and Ejim just wanders back to base. He's like, team, why? Where are you going?
And this is the Kensty we've been waiting to step up all season long. Finally, he gets his hands on the Kassadin, and the massacre in front of him, the high kill participation, 9-4-15. We've talked about Porky, but Kensty's Kassadin, you must ban this champion against Kensty, at least until 5.4 when we see massive changes come through to that Kassadin.
Yeah, and Porky's Rumble as well has just been so good. Always has in the past been a fantastic champion for Porky, but this time around, I have to say I haven't seen a performance like this. As Solar Flare's going to come through Ejim. Valiant defense to come down from this Leona, but these Nexus turrets are melting. The Nexus gonna do the same, and that is game for Avant-Garde, tying up their record with Legacy.
Absolutely, a massive win for Avant-Garde. They get the revenge for their earlier loss, and of course solidify that big victory last year. It wasn't a fluke. They pulled off a great strategic display here. Their team fighting was thing of beauty.
Yeah, and of course Porky was always known for his team fighting prowess. Last time these teams faced off, it was with Bad Game LOL, who didn't quite have as much synergy with the team, and we've got a replay to come up, and let's just hope that there's an equalizer in here to demonstrate Porky's power.
There was multiple equalizers this game. A lot of them were picture perfect. I know for a fact the one here was. So we'll roll the tape. This is it, Baron. This is the time when they are able to DPS Baron. You see the ward comes in so too late. So watch for the equalizer from Porky. Where are you going to go? There's no way to get away from that equalizer. Only Tallywhacker was able to get off, and he was so low that he died anyway. And then the pile comes in. Kensty has all the mobility of a late game Kassadin. He will fall to Choo Choo's, but 4 members die instantly there for Legacy, and that was the game for Avant.
Yeah, beautifully played by Avant-Garde, and I just don't think you can let Kensty get that Kassadin, because we've just seen that is so scary. Of course, 5.4 going to change him just a little bit. We'll see whether Kensty is going to be one of the players that decides to remain a Kassadin player.
The return of Porky to the lineup also, now Rumble becomes a priority ban for Avant. Avant, they had a very rough start to the season. This is the back half. They're starting to pick up a couple of wins. They're getting Porky settled in the team. Suddenly the bans and priority changes. Maybe Kensty will be able to get onto his better champions, really push his way up there in terms of the mid laners, and just create an impact for himself. Because on Kassadin at least, he looks world class.
Yeah, Avant-Garde looking fantastic, but we are going to be having another matchup coming up very soon, ladies and gentlemen. Rich Gang looking to bounce back after a difficult defeat against Fornot right after this.
Hello and welcome back everyone to the OPL. We're here for round 4, day 2. It's going to kick off with some more Oceanic matches. I'm Julian Pastry Time Girl. Joining me still is Christopher Papa Smithy Smith, and what a great last series we just had.
It was great to see Avant finally step up, start to justify their moniker as the 2014 champions. They played wonderfully well against top opposition in Legacy. And we were talking about MVP. There could have been two. Of course, Kensti was wonderful on that trademark Cassidy, but it had to be Porky with that amazing carry performance on the Rumble. He was so impressive, especially the use of Equalizer, maybe the best we've seen in the OPL so far.
Yeah, pretty sweet score. There's a 12, 2, and 12 ending out that game there on the Rumble. Absolutely amazing, just contributing so much to that team comp. And like you guys mentioned at the end of that game, Avant maybe finally back on their feet here.
I mean, it's nice to see Porky come through, put in a carry performance on his third time out now, rejoining the roster. Bad game, lol. They didn't have that same synergy. It wasn't the same role play. You know what you're getting out of Porky. It's either the real big tank frontline, or it's the Rumble where he has the wonderful carry potential. And he's on point with those skill shots. He understands where you need to put the Equalizer. And it was all on display that game.
Yeah, and of course, we're going to move into our next match here now as well. Bit different here. Rich Gang going to take on R4D2 in this particular game. And R4D2 definitely a team that still struggling in the LPL. Haven't yet to pick up a win, unfortunately.
So, they're 0-6 at this point. They've tried a lot of different things. I'm sure we'll get to that in a moment. But they've just never been able to get it all together on the Rift in one way.
Yeah, and I feel like the thing is when you look at this team, R4D2 are definitely trying things. They're mixing it up. They're picking a lot of different champions. They're bringing a lot of the unique picks that they had in the Challenger Series that they qualified for into this here. But it kind of starts here, again, not that much success, but they've at least tried some stuff here. We're going to actually start by looking at Moya, their mid laner, and look at his last 6 champion picks, or his 6 picks. And you can see pretty eclectic apart from 3 Orianna games there.
He's really been consistent with the Orianna. That's what got them through a lot of Challenger Series games. The Wukong Orianna, I believe, was the big wombo combo. Sinnoh and solo queue. It's very, very effective. But these teams and the step up to the OPL has been a struggle for Moya and for R4D2 in general. They really struggle to get their kind of comfort champions, those AoE wombo combos. They've just been disengaged so well by these top teams, and they're just still struggling for that first win.
Yeah, and they've still been looking for other picks as well. You mentioned, of course, the Wukong. That has been a play here for the jungler. We'll bring up Naya's last 6 picks as well so far in the OPL. He's gone even crazier, arguably, with those 6. 3 Lee Sin games, a Jarvan, a Wukong, and a Sejuani.
I mean, we have seen Diamond picking up some wins on the Sejuani, so this was actually quite a while ago, so we are seeing that Sejuani early in the OPL as well. It just wasn't enough to pick up the wins. You can see kind of similar flavors. A lot about that AoE wombo combo, whether it's I believe the Lee Sin Orianna has been the big combo they have, still have a great ball carrier in Lee Sin to get the big shockwave off. But Orianna, I believe she's still 0% win rate across the teams in the OPL. Chenny Boy also really trying to get wins with the Orianna and not being able to pick up any. It's more been the pick mids that have seen a lot of success, or perhaps once in a while the real wave clearing mids, just to open up times for those hyper carries to reach the late game.
Yeah, and as we're having a quick wait here as well, seeing as the teams do get their way into the lobby, just to remind you guys, if you want to get on Twitter and talk about all the action, you can get on Twitter, use the hashtag #IamOPL. You can give us your thoughts, who you think is going to win, who you think should win the MVP, just anything you want at all.
Yeah, I'm sure there was a lot of discussion about in the last series. Was it Kensti? Was it Porky? Both of them so impressive. It was wonderful to see Kensti finally step up after his struggles earlier in the season in that game. But in this game, Rich Gang, they need to arrest that momentum. 0-4, I believe, they entered this series. It was a nice start. There was a lot of high hopes for this Rich Gang team, but so far they've really been struggling.
Yeah, a couple of changes through there as well. But R4D2, another team that also wants to sort of get some momentum. This is a big game for both teams here, you have to think. Just because, they've both sort of been in a slump to kick off their OPL. One of them is going to get to finally pick up a win and maybe get the ball rolling here.
And of course, with the way the standings work, the first 4 teams, they make playoffs. The 5th team, they're safe. But the 6th through 8th, that's the real worry. And of course, entrenched in 8th spot right now. I believe 2 wins off being able to leave the 8th spot are R4D2. They're definitely in their relegation battle. And you need to pick up wins against your fellow relegation battle battlers, or you're just kind of entrenched. You're just leaving your fate, your professional career, to one best of 3.
Yeah, it's just one of those matches where, against the top teams, you expect to struggle. There are good teams. It's just a best of 1. You can pull out some strats, but it's going to be a tough road the whole way through. But you're right, against kind of lower of the table here, and both teams have struggled in the last few weeks here. Absolutely need to pick up a win. So for R4D2, it's whatever. Everything they've done hasn't worked yet. They've played standard, they've played kooky, they've done kind of a mix of both in situations as well. They've had definitely strong moments in the OPL, but haven't converted to a full game win yet. So it's just a matter of what do they want to play, and what will give them their first win and really get the ball rolling.
And we don't really have an answer to what they want to play. We know they want to play the off-meta picks. That's the funny thing for them is their standard, their new normal is the Wukong, is the Orianna, is the slightly off-meta picks. That's what they qualify for. We haven't seen the Amumu yet. I'm sure everyone was excited when it was Hovered the last time Fortnite was out because they've seen a lot of success with that Amumu. We haven't seen the Amumu lock come through. I just don't know. Is it a move to standard meta? Is it a move to the standard champions that will see them wins in the future? Or is it just doubling down on some of these off-meta picks?
Well, we are unfortunately going to have to wait a little while longer to find out. We are going to pop off to a quick break, but when we return, Fortnite will take on Rich Gang. Hello and welcome back, everyone, to the OPL broadcast. Unfortunately, we will not be starting off by bringing you Fortnite versus Rich Gang here, but a couple of things happened. So let me just quickly explain to you what's going on so we can wrap things up here. But Fortnite Rich Gang has officially been forfeited by the Fortnite players. They're unable to field a full roster, unfortunately, for the evening, so they'll be forfeiting that game. The next game, of course, upcoming after that, Avant versus Fortnite, is still uncertain. If we do the game, we will record it for you and put it immediately over on the YouTube channel for Riot Games Oceania so you guys can watch it, but it will not be broadcasted tonight either. So unfortunately, the two games we had scheduled are not going ahead, at least online.
Yeah, sad news that we won't be able to get two big games for Fortnite, two important games for them, looking like they won't be able to pick up that big first win unless things significantly change.
Yeah, but thankfully, though, we do have some good news here as well. We have the winners of our contest from last week. If you do remember, the Game Face winners have come through, and you guys sent through some awesome tweets as well. We'll have a quick look through our winners and hand out some skins as well. So you can see the first one. That man has the look of the OPL literally in his eyes and is the winner of a lovely Arclight Velcro.
So it was so hard to really specialize. Just pick 3 winners, but the first one came through. The second winner, the Poro in the shot, really makes it for me. Really looking forward to OPL games, the Poro as well.
Got the headset on, ready to watch the games, making sure it's all good to go. And of course, this last one, very intense, cupcake in hand, watching the OPL from presumably the comfort of their own desk, which is the best way to watch the OPL.
Absolutely.
I mean, from this desk, maybe. That maybe is the best way to watch it. But of course, other than that, we do have our schedule coming up as well. There is more OPL coming up on this Thursday, so we'll run over to the schedule for you now. So just to let you know which games are coming up there as well.
All right, so we'll begin on Thursday. Chiefs taking on Immunity, another big game for Immunity. They pushed the Chiefs so hard last time out, but weren't able to take them down after a face check that kind of left us scratching our heads. And then Rich Gang will take on Immunity in the second game.
Yeah, and then a big rematch here as well. The Chiefs versus Legacy. Old rivals here for the Chiefs. And the Chiefs going to see if they can continue this whole day, actually. Can they keep going undefeated? It's insane that they're this far ahead so far in the OPL. But looking good. And Legacy, again, after now in 3rd place, I believe, with their loss that they just picked up, going to take on Rich Gang and see if they can get some more points up towards the top.
2 very difficult tests for the Chiefs. You have to think if they get through these 2 games, they're going to be by far the favorites to go that big 14-0 sweep. But there's always those trap games. There's always that overconfidence. Even if they get past those teams, anything can happen. But viewers, we weren't expecting to only bring you 2 series today. Understandably, you might need to check on the schedule, check on some of the OPL information. So please visit oce.lolesports.com. That's OCE, I can pronounce that, .lolesports.com. The VOD, if we do see the final game between Fortnite and Avant go through, will be on that website. All the information, the schedule, and the results, to reiterate everything in all this carnage, will be presented with easy clarity.
Yeah, great articles up on there as well. So lots of good stuff over on the website. But for that does unfortunately wrap up a shorter broadcast for us this evening. But we'll see you back on Thursday for myself, Papa Smithy, and Atlas from earlier in the evening. You guys have been awesome, and we'll see you later.